Hey, welcome to, I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know if I get a sound check here. I've got a weird setup tonight with headphones on because I'm going to try to co-host with Birdie Bombshell. And until I get, and so it's weird. I'm muffled myself on my headset. I need to pull that ear off. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull that ear off my headset so I can hear myself a little bit better. Going to get a sound check. Let me know if you hear me fine here. Also, we are simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube. These headphones are going to do something weird with that green screen. I did want to have my YouTube channel up here because we're going to be broadcasting, or I am broadcasting, I believe, on YouTube right now. I'm trying to confirm that we should be live on YouTube. Let me go double check while we're doing the testing here. Studio. Let's go to Go Live, and looks like we are live now on YouTube. So yeah. So sound check. Anybody? Can anybody hear me? Hello. Can anybody hear me? About 5 minutes, by the way, until we officially get started. But I do want to get somebody to tell me they can hear me and that you've got that. Yes, you can hear me. Fantastic. Outstanding. If anybody's over on YouTube, I would appreciate knowing that as well. Although I can't remember if I'm able to see chat in YouTube. Let me go view docs chat. So I should be able to see my stream. Oh, it looks like yes, I can hear you on YouTube, Shelby says. Fantastic. Holy crap. I'm becoming a sound engineer and a video engineer. So how's the sound, Shelby, on YouTube? Hopefully it's okay. We got about 4 minutes till we get started. I'm going to go live. We're going to co-host tonight. First time I've done a co-host with Birdie Bombshell. We have both talked about trying this format as opposed to me coming on as a guest, which I've been doing on his show a couple times. I come on as a guest and I'm a little picture-in-picture. Birdie wanted to share the screen with me, and we were talking about different options. It made sense to go for a co-host option to pull this off for the first time, in part because he wants to discuss or have me discuss potentially Luigi Mangione, which he is not following, and he wanted to. Great, thank you for the sound check on YouTube. And so if we cover Luigi Mangione on YouTube, I want to be able to have it so that I'm going to. I'm adjusting the volume. You probably heard my. For some reason, my lighting system behind me wanted to freak out. In fact, I can turn this light off behind me. Anyways, if I do the co-hosting, if I step over the line talking about Luigi Mangione, hopefully it doesn't get him in trouble. So that's another benefit of going co-host. So we should be side by side here tonight on screen, and I got it simultaneously casting a mirror of my phone. I'm praying that I don't have anything showing on YouTube, because in the fringes of my phone that's like telling people all kinds of personal stuff about me because I'm mirroring my phone. I got notifications turned off so that if anybody texts me something really embarrassing, because I have an interesting life, sometimes people send me really embarrassing shit that would be not appropriate for you guys to watch, because that's the way I roll. I always say when people want to borrow my phone, no, you can't borrow my phone. If you allow people to borrow your phone, you must not live as interesting a life as I do. But that's an aside. Anyways, we got about 2 more minutes before we go officially live, and then I will get into the official monologue, if you will, as I call it. Also, I'm going to pull up something on my screen, which may pull up on the wrong screen. Nope, it pulled up on the right screen. All right, so we look pretty good. All right. So with all good luck, I can read your texts in the. Do I need my glasses? Do I need? Oh, wow! It's amazing how much sharper things get when I wear glasses. But I hate wearing glasses, so it's a catch-22. Do I want to read stuff or do I want to wear glasses? So yeah, just buckle in. We got about 2 minutes. I'll get officially started. I'll explain some things that I got going on. I got some things on my mind on both Luigi's case and Kohberger's case. So I got things that are on my mind. Mostly this is going to be a Q&A and a live show. If you've never seen Birdie and I go live, we tend to just riff off each other back and forth. Now, by the way, we were going to go live in exactly 1 minute, but he's running behind, he said, so he may not be available until about 11 to 15 minutes after the top of the hour. So I'm going to try to figure that out with him, and I've got notifications turned off. I just realized I got notifications turned off, so I can't text him. Ooh. This is horrible. I'm mirroring my phone. I can't tab out to look at my private messages without you all seeing our private messages. So I'm just going to have to send him a co-host invite here in a little bit and see if he answers. Hopefully he will. Again, 1 minute before we get started, and then I'll explain that. Maybe I'll have to unmirror my phone for a moment so that you guys don't all see it on YouTube. Because that's the only thing I think is going to happen is if I unmirror my phone, YouTube's going to not see what I'm doing. But then I have to set up all these extra steps to get back. Ugh, what a nightmare. The video stuff. Okay, we're 6 o'clock. So, 6 o'clock, off the top of my head. As a reminder, is my typical thing that I like to do. I want to remind you that everything you hear tonight is for educational purposes. I'm not an authority. I'm not a lawyer. I do tons of research, and I try to tell you when I'm speculating versus when I'm telling you that you can take it to the bank, things that I say. Somebody saw the vanilla Coke. Anyways, so yeah, I just want to make sure that you understand that don't take what I say as authority. I'm an opinion. I'm a talking head, and so that's all that is. Now, along that lines, I had somebody text me shortly before I started tonight saying, "Oh my God, did you see that Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has responded to Thomas Dickey's motion, basically to toss out the arrest and let Luigi Mangione go from Pennsylvania, and that they have responded to that." Now, here's the problem. From what I understand, when I went onto the website, there is nothing formally public for the public to look at that I can see, and I did a search on the internet, and there was nothing I can see. However, I've been told the attorney David Beatrice, who I like, he goes by Boomer. He's because he's an attorney, he has some backdoor access to those court documents. So apparently, what it sounds like is David Beatrice has already reviewed a 27-page document response from what I believe would be the prosecution in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So let me explain a little bit what happened in that case. I'm kind of going to get right into the nuts and bolts as we start. So Thomas Dickey in Pennsylvania filed a motion a little over a month ago, basically saying that the arrest of Luigi Mangione was illegal, that they had detained him unlawfully, they had questioned him for 17 minutes before giving him his Miranda rights, and that everything that basically happened during that arrest is illegal because of the way it was handled. The prosecution then has to respond, which basically the response of the prosecution is going to be, yes, it was totally, and you can take this to the bank. The response of the prosecution is going to be, that was totally a legal arrest, and here's why it's legal. And then, as I understand it, then a judge will look at both sides, the argument that Thomas Dickey made on behalf of Luigi, and the argument the prosecution does, which is that we never do anything wrong, so it's totally legal. And then a judge has to decide which of the two are correct. So what I believe has happened at this point that I'm behind on now is that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the prosecution in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has given their formal response. This is why it's totally legal what we did to Luigi Mangione, and why you can pack sand. It was legal. So I haven't read that document. It is at this point only a rumor that David Beatrice has commented on it, because I went to his profile on TikTok and I didn't see him talking about it, but I've been told that he talked about it and that it was confusing. Somebody else has read it. That's interesting. I have gone to, as my first point, LuigiMangioneInfo.com. Perfect. Thank you so much for sending that to me. So I've gone to LuigiMangioneInfo.com, and there's no updates on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. When you click on it, it's not published publicly that I can see. Then I went out and searched on the internet asking for it, and ChatGPT asking if anything had been released today, and they said not officially, no, but David Beatrice is covering it. So I'm assuming that only people who have access to the behind-the-scenes legal documents have access to that. And if you have access to that, fantastic. I've actually read some of the 27 pages, says somebody on YouTube. So you guys all see stuff I don't see. Help me out here. Try to help me out and get to be a better researcher. If you guys all have access to these documents and it's all on the internet, I am missing it. So yes, thank you so much to anybody who wants to send that over to me. I can only break down the things that I've seen for my own self. So with that in mind, if you guys have an opinion, let me know. I know one person who said that they had seen it from Beatrice. Said that it was confusing what David Beatrice said. So I don't know, because I haven't seen what David Beatrice said and I haven't seen the 27 pages. But you guys are giving me more and more of a warm fuzzy that there has indeed been a formal response. Why it's not published to the website where the formal court document is posted, I don't know, because it's not there. In fact, if you look on my screen on YouTube, let me show you that. Let's just go prove to what I'm seeing. This is LuigiMangioneInfo.com. This has got, and keep in mind, these guys could be behind, but what they can't be behind on is down below where it says case updates. You see the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on the right-hand side. It lists the most recent thing that's happened is 3/11/25, so that's a long time ago. And if you click on the hyperlink, which takes you right to the website for the Unified Judicial System of Pennsylvania, there's nothing there. I'm looking at it again. There's nothing there. April 25th is days ago. That is it. That wasn't here earlier. There it is. There it is. It's posted. It wasn't there when I looked. I swear it wasn't there when I looked just a minute ago. There it is. There's the 27th. This is the Commonwealth's answer to the defendant's omnibus treaty. It's posted. So I swear it wasn't there earlier. Look at that. I was going to show you to prove to you it's not there, and then it's there. Awesome. Make me look like a jackass on live TV or whatever this is. So anyways, again, I need to go live with co-hosting with Birdie Bombshell shortly, and it's about 5 minutes after, so maybe a little bit early. I don't think I can read this to you at the same time and go over it. So I'm putting it on the screen on YouTube if you want to see it. Comes now the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and basically it looks like they're enumerating. It looks like they're enumerating the different points that Thomas Dickey made. So there's things that they're admitting to. It looks like. Yeah, it looks like they're admitting to certain things and they're arguing with certain things. I'm just scrolling through to take a look. So they got all these different points. It looks like they're enumerating the points that Thomas Dickey made. Denied. See the answer on paragraph 23. So they're denying some things that were said. Admitted with clarification. Okay, so they're admitting certain things and they're admitting certain things with clarification. They're denying certain things. Denied. All right, this is the first time I've seen this document. I do not have time to break it down on the live, but let's take a look together. 55 points, 60 points. Holy shit. 72 points. Denied, admitted, denied, admitted, denied, admitted, admitted with clarification kind of bullshit. Okay, so 90 points, 104 points. No, 105 points. Continuing on. 114 points. Wow. Okay, 120 something points. Okay, and then, so accordingly, the Commonwealth respectfully submits to Altoona Police Department officers were required to respond to the dispatch involving the defendant, personally corroborated the information provided by the known 911 caller. That's going to be a subject to discuss. Conducted a lawful investigatory detention. So their conclusion is it was completely illegal what we did. We lawfully effectuated a probable cause arrest for the forged identification and lawfully executed the search and arrest of his inventory. The Commonwealth therefore requests the defendant's omnibus pretrial motion be denied. So that part is not a surprise, people. Not a surprise. It's 100% certain that the prosecution was going to tell you that was totally illegal, totally a legal arrest, and you should ignore everything that his defense attorney said. That's normal. That's normal. The prosecution was going to say, yes, that was a totally legal arrest. And they needed to, and they have, stipulated every single point that Thomas Dickey made and enumerated it, and abbreviated with things like, yeah, number 8.8, yeah, we admit that, or whatever. And there's a lot of stuff that they admit, but it needs clarification. Okay, so I can't break that down on the live, as you know, but there it is. I swear that wasn't there earlier. Holy crap, that's so funny. So there it is. It is available for us to review. So I will break that down in detail on Wednesday night's live, in detail. And giving my full opinion, if you want to hear it, on whether or not the prosecution has a strong case. And again, this, from what I understand, is going to be the Commonwealth. That's the prosecutor. Nicholas, see, if you look here at the top, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is against Luigi Mangione. So the Commonwealth is the prosecution. They are going to give their response to Luigi Mangione's complaint that it was an illegal arrest. And their response basically is, pack sand, it was totally legal. And now a judge... and I believe we know the judge in Pennsylvania, or do we? Maybe not. Anyways, now a judge is going to review both sides of this argument Thomas Dickey's argument, it was completely an illegal arrest, and here's the reasons why, and he enumerates it, and then the response from the prosecution. No, it was totally illegal, and here's the reasons why, to point by point to your thing, it was again, none of that should be a surprise to you. None of that should be a surprise to you. But I will break it down, and I will give you my opinions about whether or not I think the state has a case, whether they clarified something, I'll go, oh yeah, okay, I didn't see that before, that makes sense. So unfortunately, I cannot do it on the live. So we also have the Kohberger case to talk about. Obviously, this is the big news. It sucks that I literally got told about this 1 hour. And I was on a hike, by the way. So I've been trying to hike for fitness. I was on a hike. And when I got cell coverage back and only had like an hour left before my live, I was told, hey, can you break down the Commonwealth's response to Luigi Mangione? And I'm like, in an hour? No. Like, I still have to get back home. So unfortunately for me, because I only go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I don't have a live scheduled until Wednesday. And normally I would do a special live on Tuesday. I know I'm talking out my ass and you're like, dude, this dude never stops talking. Normally I would do a special live, special breaking news, and cover this because this is huge. And I would normally do that on Tuesday. But the problem is I have a class on Tuesday evening for 2 more weeks. And then it's over, and then I'm free on Tuesdays. So I can't do it tomorrow, so it's probably going to have to be Wednesday. So I super apologize for those who are waiting for my response. They want to hear what I have to say. Someone on YouTube says, when I read it, my personal response opinion that the Altoona police did nothing wrong and putting all the blame on Luigi. Yeah, that's what I would expect. That's exactly what and again, for those people who believe that it was an illegal arrest, keep in mind that the prosecution saying it was totally legal is not a surprise. It's exactly what we expected to have happen. It's for a judge at this point to decide which one of the two sides makes most sense. Thank you for the gifts that's come in, by the way, while we're waiting. I'm going to see if I'm going to make an attempt now, because again, I have to unmirror my phone if I do it any other way. So I'm going to make an attempt to go with Birdie and see if Birdie's online. There he is. Birdie, as you can see, I have an invite option, but it's grayed out, which indicates to me Birdie is not yet going live. If he was going live, I could do an invite with him, but it looks like I can't, which means to me that Birdie is not, and you probably didn't see that on TikTok, but you did see it on YouTube. That's my guess. So I had a pop-up that came up. YouTube would see it because they're getting a mirror of my phone. And they would see that Birdie was the top of the list, but it doesn't have a go live button with him because he's not broadcasting right now. He did tell me he was going to be a few minutes behind. All right. I talk super fast. The backpack defense is also weak. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to break that down. I'm excited to break it down. It's sad that we can't break it down in the live, but literally I would have to read it out loud to you. And you saw it was like 140 points or some shit. Like that would take us a long time and you would fall asleep, frankly, because it's not bedtime story time and it's late at night for some of you. And this is an international audience. For some of you, I found out it's like 3 a.m. What else do I have to tell you? Here's some things I'm going to tell you why we're waiting for Birdie. All right. So thanks for letting me know, by the way, somebody on YouTube is confirming that we are on YouTube. So the YouTube thing is working. Hopefully it's mirroring my phone when I go live with Birdie. The sound hopefully is all going to work. YouTube should be picking up through my OBS studio broadcast the sound from when he and I go. And this is why I got headphones on. I don't normally wear headphones, but when Birdie comes on, I'm going to have to hear Birdie from my phone's headphones, which will broadcast audio from my PC to TikTok or to YouTube. Oh my God. Like if I pull this off, it's a miracle. Anyways, what was I going to say? I was going to say a couple more things while we're waiting for Birdie about the Kohberger situation. Steve Gonsalves recently went on another podcast with the Drunk Turkey Show. It amazes me to this day that there is still a gag order in place on the Idaho 4 murders, and yet Steve Gonsalves is going on every talk show, TV appearance, podcast on YouTube, and blabbing his mouth about how he feels about the case. I don't understand why no other families are doing this, and only Steve Gonsalves feels that he can run off all the time at the mouth on it. But there's been some really interesting updates. He added another update about Kaylee being punched in the face. That was new information. He also indicated in that Drunk Turkey Show that he's going to somehow blow the lid off of everything in trial. That when he goes to court, he's going to not hold anything back and he's going to tell everybody everything. Now, there's a problem, by the way, fundamentally with what Steve Gonsalves is saying. And I'll tell you this. American court systems are not supposed to work like frickin' Perry Mason TV shows, like from way back in the day, which would always have some kind of surprise thing that happened in court. Somebody would say something, and you're like, oh, that wasn't expected. Our court systems don't work like a fucking Perry Mason episode, right? You're not supposed to have any surprises in the court. So anything that gets told in that courtroom, the defense better well have known about it already. And the prosecution better have well known about it as well. There is very, very, very rare cases in which something literally comes out new in the middle of a trial, and they will fight about it. Your Honor, that can't come in. I don't care if it is new information. We're in the middle of a trial here. You don't have surprises, right? You do not have surprises in the American court system. So fundamentally, I have a little bit of an issue with Steve Gonsalves acting like he's going to blow the lid off of things and expose things we don't know at trial when he gets on the stand, because that can't be a surprise. You don't understand. American legal system, there's no surprises. The defense has to know exactly what Steve Gonsalves knows. So if he knows something that everybody else doesn't know, that's a problem. I don't know if I beat that home enough. But there's another thing that I wanted to point out and let me see if I can go live again real quick. So we'll see if we can. Birdie is still not broadcasting from what I can see. All right. And again, I got notifications turned off, so I don't know if I should turn that on or not. It would let everybody and their dog see who texts me, and I don't like that idea. So we're going to hold off on that. We're going to hold off on seeing. I'm just going to have to keep trying to go live every so often with them. So let me tell you another thing about what I found was interesting. So there's a YouTuber that I watch a lot by the name of Harsh Reality, and I highly recommend him. He's British, but he's following the Idaho 4 case. Somebody has referred to me before as the American version of Harsh Reality, because we talk very similar. Well, I talk 10 times faster than he does, but we use a lot of the same kind of humor, same kind of style. We both wear baseball caps, all these things. Birdie's live, so why can't I? No, that's a recording, isn't it? That's a recording. You're watching a video of him. Is that live? That's not live. Hold on, my wife's trying to show me that Birdie's live, and I don't think Birdie's live. I think you're watching a video of his. Birdie.
He's busy.
He said to send him a co-invite thing. Okay, take that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I somehow requested, I think I accidentally requested you to join him. All right, let me see if I can join Birdie.
He's already got 2 other people.
Well, that surprises me. Invite. Oh man, we got a mess tonight. If Birdie's live and I can't seem to invite him, sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm a mess. And my headset's not working. Jesus, I got a huge mess.
You were my friend. Where are you from?
All right, decline. I got to get out of this. Hold on. I'm making a mess of things. Give me a second. Why is Birdie not able to go live with me? And why can't I hear my guest who is on? I got an absolute mess, Rhonda.
Some chick on there.
I know that. And now you got an echo going on, and I got no audio, and I got all kinds of shit going on. Okay, give me a minute, man. I'm gonna try to work my crap out over here, but all right, I gotta untether. I'm untethering from YouTube so YouTube doesn't see all my personal business. Stand by, people. Let me see if I can get this unclustered.
So Birdie double booked. Sounds like.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry. This is taking forever. Is that okay? We can go for however long, so no rush to get through your shit. Okay. Once we start. Okay, so Birdie is looks like he's live, but I can't seem to get him. I can't seem to go live with him.
You're paused.
He's live with guests.
I told you that.
Yeah.
I was trying to show you that.
So I don't know. I agree. So can you guys hear me still on so YouTube's completely screwed. YouTube's probably getting my audio though. YouTube's getting an audio. So I'm sorry that you're not getting the video feed on YouTube. You guys are hearing me, right? You can see that.
You on TikTok.
All right. You can hear me on TikTok or no?
Yes.
All right. What a mess. Co-host. I cannot co-host with Birdie. I know he's supposed. If he's broadcasting, I'm supposed to be able to join him.
He's got 2 other people on that.
All right, people. This is a cluster beyond clusters, and I'm sorry for the YouTube for the YouTube people who are getting even worse. I feel like what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut out of this and then send an invite to join him as a guest. And so you may have to wait until you see me go live again. Unfortunately, what a cluster tonight. So we're not doing well. So.
Did he talk to you?
Yeah, he talked to me. He sent me text messages. I think. Yeah, I can invite other people to co-host, but I just can't invite him. So I'm not sure what the hell's going on. All right, I apologize, everyone. This is a big cluster. I'm going to end the live, I believe, and then I'm going to join him as a guest, and hopefully you can follow me as a guest and we get it worked out. Hopefully. So sorry about the inconvenience. All right, you guys, hold still. Let me see if I can get this figured out.
Of interest in United Healthcare CEO shooting.
I don't understand what you're doing.
Person of interest in United Healthcare CEO shooting.
Leave her.
I'm trying to get on Birdie's live.
Why? He's already got 2 people.
He told.
Freaking go and take the lid off of something right now that I've never thought about. That would be the wildest shit ever if they knew who they are. They figured out how they had to put this out there. They're literally sending a message saying over, and everyone sent it to Roger, and everyone knows who big down on the border that could be a truck driver. That's
YouTube, if you guys still hear me, can you let me know? I'm waiting to join Birdie as a guest. I'll try to mirror my video. I've sent it.
Who is playing the freaking game with the American public?
I don't know. But that shit is the first time that I ever thought about that. There's also, like,
Now, my story was a true story.
yes.
I believe.
All right, I'm still waiting for
Right in front of our eyes.
I'm still waiting for Birdie to recognize I've asked to join him.
Like I've always said, office racer is the simplest thing. Why do you think no males were living in that house?
Queens of King Road.
Bingo. And who else would have possibly been attached to that? That they knew. Why would they?
So sorry, people. So I'm glad you guys can hear me.
In our own chat that they used to live in that house.
Yes, somebody was in the chat.
All right, we're seeing if Birdie is going to get me on or no.
And devil's advocate, I saw that going on too for like 10 minutes here. But I don't get through this here quick.
Yeah, let's finish watching.
I just want to.
Okay. All right, so turns out Birdie is not accepting my request because he wants to finish 10 minutes of his thought process going on. So I got to wait for Birdie. And that's okay. Like, I'm not mad at Birdie, but he's got guests on. He's got people talking to him. I'm trying to listen in one ear to listen to what he's saying, but he just told me that he needs 10 minutes before he can bring me on. So if you have a question on YouTube, by the way, please let me know, and I can maybe answer while I'm waiting for him. We'll see.
Phoenix, and I'm sorry about that. The military search. I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that even maybe.
Sorry for the inconvenience. It's really weird because I feel like you need, like while I'm streaming on YouTube, you need to know that I'm still here. So I probably have to keep talking, but I'm also trying to listen to him and figure out what's going on here.
It's like something, once you see it, you cannot unsee it, but then you really question, what am I really watching? What am I really seeing in real life? And why do they have so many bank accounts?
You guys, I wonder if you guys are hearing. Doesn't look like you're hearing. You wouldn't hear the audio. You wouldn't hear the audio because the audio is coming from TikTok on my phone. So yeah, you're not hearing his side.
Financial
What a mess. Thank you for letting me know, Shelby, you can hear. I'm so sorry for the cluster. This is something we're going to have to work out for the future. It's something Birdie and I are trying for the first time, and it's not going off without a hitch, that's for sure. So I lost my TikTok audience to shutting down over there, and now I'm waiting for him. He's got a big room going. He's got 300 and something people in there, so... let's see what's going on. All right, he's indicating to send him an invite. So I'll request it again. All right, I'm requesting to go live. If he accepts it, I'll put a mirror on and see if I can get this mirrored to YouTube.
Maybe that was just a certain area that hadn't been developed, and then it got developed. So then those sliders are very common. So you can push the slider towards the lock and hit it, and it will pop it up. Mm. So that was well known that those sliders weren't very secure at locking. So I don't have any idea that that's what this person did, but I was told that even if you lock that slider, that would be a place where you would want to, or you're a person who's going to sneak into somebody else's home, a burglar, that would be an ideal door to try to test.
Yeah. You know, there was a time not too long ago where Ann Taylor was talking in her hearings, and they were mentioning that there wasn't any DNA of the victims inside his vehicle, but they mentioned something about being sprayed all over the place. Now, I don't know if that's something that maybe the CSI guys did to try to find something, or is it maybe... Are you aware?
I think
anything in the car that
Birdie can't hear me, but you guys can on
because nobody talks about this part.
YouTube. So I'm gonna go turn on my microphone on his side.
Go do your own search. Go research. Go to a paid version of AI. There's some AIs that have legal descriptions in libraries. Go look it up. 6 weeks in a car, that DNA is gone. Even if you leave it there, it's going to be contaminated. It's gonna degrade. So they were like, don't be surprised if we don't find anything in there, because it's sitting in outdoor weather where it's going below freezing to up to 70 degrees. They literally looked at all the temperatures every single day that vehicle was outside. It wasn't garaged. So it's sitting in the baking sun.
But didn't they also board the house up as well? And like, nobody's living there. Do you think they had the heat and
Yeah, the heat was on. Yeah, they said the heat was on, the guard shack was put up, but also, you can't luminol a car?
Yeah, I don't know. And I just let Devil's Advocate up too, so Devil's Advocate, welcome, brother. I'm excited to have you up here again. Sorry this is taking a little bit longer. Feel free to obviously chime in. I don't know if you had a chance to watch this yet, have you?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. I've got a giant cluster. I was trying to join you as a co-host, and that went south, and now I've got audio coming from my PC and not my phone, and I got a complete nightmare over here, actually, brother.
All right, I'll just meet you for the next couple minutes, and then just shoot me a text.
Okay, so you want me to dump off this, and we're gonna still try a co-host in a little bit, or what?
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that, or if you just want to hang out here, and I can put you on mute while you figure out the feedback.
All right.
You kind of hear it slightly, but okay. All right, cool. Let this go.
Then going as cold as it possibly.
All right, yeah, I don't know why I'm getting.
Coldest was something like 20-some degrees.
I'm getting audio through my PC, so I think I can fix this.
But inside the car, you amplify that right on up. So yeah.
All right, sorry again.
They sprayed with something.
You YouTubers, you guys are hearing his feed now, aren't you? It looks like.
6 weeks inside of a car.
All right. For those of you who might still be on YouTube, you guys hear his audio?
Or don't be surprised. They would have been very surprised if they found something that was.
Thanks for emailing me on the YouTube for the motion, the response to the motion by Thomas Dickey. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that.
Something to protect it because of was in direct sunlight, like literally in 24 hours, DNA can start
All right.
becoming corrupt in sunlight.
All right.
Especially
So
sunlight.
right now it looks like
Yeah, I don't.
I'm broadcasting on
Stuff
YouTube.
about
I can hear him. I can hear his audio stream. You should be able to hear his audio stream.
I never hear anyone.
I'm probably a lot hotter as far as the
This car
audio.
literally drove from Washington all the way to Pennsylvania. That's a lot of exposure. I wonder if this person just cleaned it up, or if they found something, it just didn't come back as anything that was viable because it was 100% contaminated.
Yeah.
And I think that's what there was some contamination. I do know that the FBI went through that car piece by piece, and unlike some of these people, I think they do a very good job, and I think they're very skilled at what they do. And if they didn't find anything, then there wasn't much to be found.
All right. Sorry that you guys are. You can hear both of us. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Some corruption.
What a cluster this has been for tonight. Hopefully this will be worked out for next
Some
time.
cleaning supplies that I hope that they can actually be traced back to a certain lab. Because not everything is purchasable over the counter. There's certain things that you have to have a license to purchase.
Yeah, exactly. There's another case that had occurred. I want to say the last name.
So right now,
or something like that.
I'm just listening to Birdie
A
finish
guy
up
out
his
Rochester,
guests.
New York, drove 3 hours, and he took the life of his mother or his father, and hit his mom with an axe to the heads of both of them. And he drove 3 hours back. And when they searched his Jeep, no blood. He stood over him when he did it. Now, the reason that they believe that he was able to accomplish this, because there was no cleanup, no sign of a shower or anything like that, was because he was a veterinarian tech, and at his place of business, they had, I guess, materials that would protect veterinarian techs during surgeries, and that's what he had worn, and he was able to drive 3 hours back without getting any DNA. The only DNA, I think the DNA that they actually got him, that ended up convicting him was he went to a toll booth and he got the DNA off the.
Do I need to up the volume on the audio input for you guys compared to me? Because I'm coming in super hot compared to the audio you're hearing.
I think that there's the possibility, especially when you see that 2020 May letter, final that he wrote about how, what to wear so that way you don't contaminate a scene. I think we're going to see a bunch of that in his purchases, and I think that's going to be something else that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's just another record that they were able to pull off where, he talks about the right outfit that you would want to commit this crime in, and then they have him purchasing it. Yeah. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but we all know what a Yankees outfit. One of the thing, it's basically what Michael Myers wore.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
it's yeah, some people like to be lied to. They like to be manipulated.
Frustrating tonight. Frustrating. Thank you, YouTubers, by the way, for sticking with us. This has been a cluster. I will try to clean up our act and get a little better. I see that we're losing people on YouTube because this has been a cluster. I apologize for that. Thanks for sticking with us, though.
As anybody that's thought on their own, you said if you cross them in the street and you've seen their social media post, you're debating going to jail over it.
But that's just not for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there are some folks, it doesn't matter.
They're talking about Kohberger, yes. They're talking about the Kohberger case, which Birdie wanted to get my opinions on a couple things. Steve Gonzalez just recently went on the Drunk Turkey show. That's what he's showing here on screen. Steve Gonzalez has been making the rounds publicly, making all kinds of opinions and statements about the case.
That's too much of a coincidence. That's too much. Don't worry about what BK is doing. That's all coincidence. But that car being from Colorado and somebody being over there from Colorado, different parts, different people, everything else. It's wild, the conspiracies that they believe in. Well, Steve, I don't want to take too much more of your time. Is there anything else that you want to get out to the world?
Birdie wanted to talk a little bit about Kohberger with me, and then he wanted to have me introduce his audience to Luigi Mangione, because he doesn't cover Luigi Mangione. So that's what our plan was for the co-host tonight.
People don't realize that,
and the co-host idea was, in my part, was that if I co-host instead of a guest, if I say something that gets TikTok mad for me talking about Luigi, they'll shut my feed off and he'll get to keep going. I don't want to get his account shut down because I've stepped over a boundary. So, yeah.
Little thumbs up, asshole pick. I think figured it out. I think it's like 14 hours later he's calling in sick for work, and that's the only day he ever called. So he.
Unfortunately, for those of you who follow Luigi Mangione, if Birdie and I get into Luigi, he kind of wanted me to introduce his group, although I would be surprised that his people don't already know about Luigi, but he doesn't know a lot about Luigi. So it may be boring for you to have me recap for him and his audience Luigi Mangione.
Guys, the biggest red flag that's coming up is how does he know about things that are going to be shown in the trial, like the stargazing app, what's going to be in the search history? How does he know that he called into... Like, I understand there's, like, the hearsay, but, like, there's other times where he's gone, like, very specific, like, knowing exactly how his phone was turned off and what the battery
Yeah,
was.
Luigi Revolution. I've been pretty fortunate of figuring out how to talk about Luigi without getting kicked off of TikTok, so we'll see if I can pull it off again. I got a week-long suspension one time, but I think I have an idea what I did, so I can avoid that again.
Is that the agenda?
I don't know.
Who's he speaking to when he does these interviews? Because my God, right now we're looking at Kohberger. Not only is he Batman and Spider-Man, but now he's Red Pool all in one.
It's unbelievable. Like, guys, I'm telling... I think that he's a Fed. I think there's a really good chance that he's, like, either a Fed or he's being briefed or he's somehow brought in...
frustrating evening. It looks like I'm about to get on Birdie's show. He's going to wrap up here. And I don't know if he's going to keep his other guest, Phoenix, on when I come on or not. We'll see. But originally we were going to be side by side on the screen co-hosting. And maybe we'll try that. Maybe we're still going to try that. I don't know.
I look at this guy and I think...
Otherwise, I'll just be a little picture-in-picture, and maybe I'm going to go with Phoenix. I don't know.
Who's feeding him information? That's what I think. I don't think he's smart enough to be, and that's my humble opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, he's out there spouting all this stuff out there that this has nothing to do with the loss of directly your daughter. And what are you doing to advocate for Kaylee? And you know what I'm saying? This interview was scripted. It's edited. It was pre-recorded. He had to make sure the lawyer said it was okay. Who?
They have a disclaimer on the bottom.
Yeah, was he on one side and then switched to the other side because he had to sign some waiver, like he said? What was being investigated? Was it him? What was being investigated?
Thanks, Cloud, for hanging in there with us. Thank you all those who are hanging in on the YouTube side. I really appreciate it. I lost like 50 people on TikTok that were watching, and I said I was coming right back, and I'm not. Although I guess technically they probably see I'm live and can be watching me sitting here as a little picture-in-picture in the corner, waiting for my time on the mic. But
seems like he'd be a prosecutor's worst nightmare, honestly.
Yeah.
so again, you YouTubers, thank you so much. If you're not yet, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. I'm super close to hitting the 500 subscriber mark, and when I do, then I can offer other tools, which it's the first step in monetizing the channel, which I know you don't necessarily care about, and I get that, but it does allow me to do more things and give me more tools. So if we can get to the 500, it's fantastic. Last I looked, I was at 528, but then I saw before the start of this, it looked like it was at 590. So I don't know if something happened unexpectedly and I got a bunch, or if that was a false reported number. So I'm either pretty close or maybe not so close. But anyways.
Why would you delete that? If you're this outdoor hunter, CSI, because I hear all these people, oh, he's a CIS grad, he's gonna have all this weird stuff.
Yeah, I like Birdie's style a lot. Him and I have a lot in common. We talk and riff off each other pretty well. And so far, it's always been me as just a little guest, a little icon in the corner. But he wanted to do a co-host where he both kind of had both control of the show. That's not happening tonight. Doesn't look like. We'll see what happens when he gets rid of his other guest, or if he does. I don't know what he's got in mind exactly. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing Birdie. I think Birdie's awesome. So that's nothing. That's nothing about that. I don't know. With the way this went tonight, I don't know what our plan is going to be tonight. We'll see. We may have to work this all out for next week.
And it was like extremely embarrassing. I walk into the classroom.
And of course, I've got the big.
gonna be
Altoona
that
response,
weirdo
you know, the
scared
big
that
Pennsylvania
all
response to
day
breakdown
long.
on Wednesday. I'll be doing that, the
So this
27-page
goes all the way
document that,
back.
thank you for those of you who sent it. I did now see it was posted to the website, so now I've got
It
access to it.
frustrates me that you can harass people at school, and because of the way the system is, you kind of go unnoticed. You kind of are able to pull it off because nobody wants to drag those victims into a court case. Nobody wants to do a police report, say this girl is absolutely petrified of this boy, and she's crying at night.
Thank
all
you,
that kind of stuff. They basically remove the two and then pretend
Again, for YouTubers that are commenting and leaving comments, thank you for being here, Marilise.
some girl came forward.
Maria,
All the way up to
yeah, I'm trying to remember how to
all
pronounce
the way
that. Sorry
to
about that.
FSU. He was still getting away with it, still being able to harass these girls, and
So we're just hanging out, waiting to see what happens.
Very frustrating thing to
I know that this is like probably a little out of pocket for me to say. I would just be curious if Kohberger could respond to any of this and hearing it directly from him. I would just be curious, like, what he would say. Is he's like, what are you talking about? Or is it like, yeah, I was in a relationship in high school and, you know, it's like first love and there's some drama that I feel like happens at, you know, the ages of 14 to 16 or 17, whenever you're in that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and can
See how
do
many
that at trial, right?
Yep.
I mean, if that ever comes up, they can do that. But I think Steve does a lot of projecting, because when he said there's a witness, and then he mentioned his sister almost in the same paragraph, it's like we already know that family Amazon account, we already know that somebody ratted him out. It could be the witness is his sister, but he projects a lot in this if you just listen to him.
failures led to your daughter's death.
Yeah.
And but we're working on
All right, guys. I'm not sure what the plan is here.
try to help another family from having to go through BK type.
Hey, there's one of my
If this is probably gonna
followers
be,
hanging
that
out
Georgia
in the
kid
room
was
on
a
in
fan of
YouTube.
his.
Cool. Or not YouTube,
George
TikTok.
I don't know his name. Great.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I remember he called himself Kroger.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
So it's already happening. So when people see why I'm on a camera and why I'm talking about the death penalty and the firing squad, it's not that I'm like into this stuff and I ever would have talked about it. It's just I know there's fans and trying to save another family and another school and another place of business from dealing with somebody like this. You know, dreams of Gander. He literally wrote about how he just felt like people were sacks of flesh. I mean, everything this guy did, and to think that some people are still following the narrative that he has been all set up.
Does anybody have a question on my YouTube while we're waiting for
That's
my
another-
time up with Birdie?
You're gonna plant somebody's DNA.
I might be able to
behind
sneak
doors.
something in, unless of course you want to hang out and listen to this discussion about Kohberger, because it is a case I follow as well.
Totally
Wait a
plant that
minute.
and they'd be arrested.
I know.
You're going to plant someone's DNA and not in CODIS. The only people that are in CODIS, mind you, this is just a speculation. If Brian was working for a non-paid internship at the police department,
I'm good,
in
Cloud. Thank
Moscow,
you.
they would have had his fingerprints. They
Or are
would
you
have had
asking
everything,
Courtney how they
even
are?
if it was a non-paid position.
I
Now.
would even. Oh, go ahead.
With that being said, criminals, anybody who's been arrested, anybody who's been sentenced, anybody that is they will be in CODIS.
Yeah, I'm a little bit mind blown that he just said this, and I bought this thing. And it's funny that someone said crash out. It's like I got this so that like, oh, I hope it works out better. Like it's like the official crash out. Like he is going absolutely insane right now. I think this thing is actually super fun as far as a desk fidget toy anyways, but he's literally laying out things
that all of these conspiracies are, and he's giving almost literal.
I'm here, guys, on YouTube. In case you're wondering why this is Devil's Advocate thing, and we're listening to somebody else. I'm here. Birdie and I were going to do a live together, and it's not quite working out tonight. So I'm kind of hanging out in his live, broadcasting it from my phone, waiting to see if we're going to talk or not.
It'd be over and done with. Nobody would even question it. But you're gonna go after this PhD guy, who you're gonna have to do this whole IgG thing to. It's gonna spend weeks working on it. It doesn't even make sense. Who sets up somebody like that?
Let's see what Birdie is saying.
So I appreciate you giving an audience and helping set the table straight and help bringing out as much truth as we possibly can. I always say go to Idaho's webpage, go look at the court records. Don't take my word. Don't take Daniel's word. Go look yourself.
I don't like people seeing my personal shit. That's horrible on YouTube. That's the last time I'm doing that, I think.
Over with, and you'll see it play out. And
disconnected by live creator.
Yeah, no, I have a strong suspicion on how it's going to end as well. Knowledge of the crime. I mean, there was a late 911 call. He may have seen somebody. Is it possible that he made a search during the time before the night?
So I don't know. He
felt very confident to return to that scene at 9 o'clock.
God dang it, man.
I wonder why he felt so
It's such a
confident.
pain in the butt if I have to disconnect my phone, but I don't
true.
like showing our personal
those
conversation
are one of the
between
things
him and
that-
I on my phone.
that
So
boggled my
checking
mind,
messages from
for a
him.
while now.
Fuck.
It's like he was able to go
It's a
back.
nightmare.
He went back.
Okay, his
The
audio's a
scene
little
could have been
quiet.
stowed
All right,
at
I
any
can fix
point.
that
The
for
camera
you.
could have been set up, and it could have been documenting cars that are driving by at any point. And he
That
went
should
back.
pump that up a bit for you.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming on.
Well, let's see. I don't know what's going to happen.
Maybe after this is all over.
Fudge. I'm not even in his room right now.
Well, that I gotta tell you, that was. I'm glad that we all waited, or at least Phoenix, that you and I waited to react to that live. That was. I'm glad that we did that. And chat, you guys as well. I'm not ending this live. Phoenix and I just had to break this initial breakdown of the film or of this interview into 2 parts. It was longer than what I expected, and I'm gonna have Devil's Advocate coming on up here now next, and I'm gonna let Phoenix kind of have the floor, give your closing thoughts on this breakdown, and then anything else that you want to say.
It's this whole interview is wild. A lot of projection, a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of confusion. If you've been following the case and you know the history and the background and you've read the court documents and you understand what's going, I mean, even if you don't understand what's going on, you
Very
could take
sorry
that
for how this
document right
went,
into
guys,
Chat
tonight,
GPT and ask, what is this
I don't know
document
if we're going to
mean?
go co-host
And
here
it'll
after
tell
all
you in
this. We're getting a
layman's
super
term, this
late start
document
for a
is
lot
X,
of you.
Y,
I
and Z.
apologize.
It'll break it down for you. And being educated on something like this, because this is a high level DP case, huge. And they are talking about precedents already in this case, which is scary for your and my constitutional rights.
I haven't heard about
That's
Luigi
pretty
suing
much all I have
the
to say
law
about this
enforcement.
case. I'm going to
No.
jump on down and I'm going to hang out and just listen. I've talked to Devil's Advocate before and he is fantastic.
Yes, thank you. And Phoenix, you rock, as always. I always look forward to having you up here. Chat, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let Devil's Advocate up. Phoenix, we will talk soon. Thank you. All right, let me see now. I'm going to try to do this. Well,
Hey,
Hold on.
here's what you do.
I know that. Hello, can you hear me?
what's up? Yeah, I got you.
So there's 2 ways we can do this. I'm mirroring my phone, right, so that YouTube can see both of us. But in order to do that, then if I want to see our private messages and text message, I have to have the whole world watch our private text messages. So I'm trying to avoid that. So I have to unplug my phone and get out of the mirror. Where I'm at with all that is we can either stay like this if you want tonight, or in order to co-host, I have to broadcast live and then join as a co-host. And it wasn't giving me the option to join you as a co-host. It was grayed out. So I don't know if it's because you have to allow co-hosts or because you were busy already. I don't know, but if you want to do it as a co-host, I'm gonna have to go broadcast live and then request to join that way.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's because if you're going to do that, I have to go live as that, And
Right. Okay. So you had to go
I
live
didn't
ad
know
as a
if I could
co-host. I see.
Yeah, I didn't know if I could stream the video footage and stuff. But
I
why
got
don't-
you. I got you.
If you're okay with it, if it's not a huge headache for you, why don't we just keep it going like this one more
Sure.
time, and we can figure it out for next week. Okay.
Sure,
Thank
yeah.
you for understanding. So,
Yeah.
so I know you were kind of dealing with the audio issues and stuff, but what I was asking you is, have you watched any of that interview that we were just breaking down?
Yes, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I've watched segments of it for sure. Yeah, so I'm a little aware of that thing.
What's your hot take on it? Give us like your 30-second hot take.
My 30-second hot take is, one, why is it that all the families are gag ordered and Steve Gonzalez takes every single opportunity to do podcasts and TV, FaceTime area? You know, it's like, what is going on with Steve Gonzalez that he's all over doing what the rest of the families can't do? Second part of my hot take is, I was just saying this on my own live before I came over to yours. We don't have Perry Mason courts in the United States. There's no surprises in the courtroom. Steve Gonzalez making a comment to the effect of, I'm going to blow the lid wide off this thing when I get on the stand. No, you're not. Because if you have something that we don't know by this point, then something's wrong with this trial. There's no surprises in the courtroom. You're not going to blow the lid off of shit in the courtroom. So if you do, we've got a problem. So those are some of my takes.
Well said, but, and I'm not making a corny pun when I say to play devil's advocate, but it works. It works. You, again, don't have to prove who a reasonable suspect would be either. Yet I would argue that I'd be curious when a defense would ever actually like point to, like, how often is a defense pointing and actually calling out other names of who needs to be investigated during a trial? Isn't it usually like the witness testimony is, and all that stuff is usually just showing like, hey, there's other people that could have done it, and there creates this doubt that the person who's on trial did, and then it's the state's job to go and find who the person that actually did it is then, correct?
Well, yeah, it's kind of confusing because here's the thing. I have never, but now granted, I don't follow millions of trials, but this idea that the prosecution tried to put forward that if the defense is going to suggest there was someone else involved, that they have to have proof of it first, is asinine. That's not how reasonable doubt works in the first place. All they have to do, supposedly all they have to do, is convince the jury that any dozen of people could have done it, or any other person could have done it, and you don't have to name a name. Nobody else is on trial. They don't have to name a name. So the prosecution tried to set this standard somehow of proof that if the defense is going to claim someone else is involved, you have to tell us who it is. No, they don't. They just have to convince a jury that somebody else could have been involved, period. So I don't know where that came from, and I don't know that if Hitler ruled on this idea that somehow if the defense is going to bring up an accomplice or somebody else did it, that they have to name the name. But Ann Taylor has already hinted at that they do have a name. That Ann Taylor has said, we just got information, we have a lead, we're still running it down, we need a little bit more time. To which, of course, Hitler's attitude is, it better not be a surprise that you guys have known about all along, because again, this isn't Perry Mason court. You can't just all of a sudden come in with evidence if you've known about it the whole time. It better indeed be something new that you didn't know about. So there's a lot of games being played in this whole thing. But
Well, and my question to that is, all right, so you're going to name a guy in a quadruple homicide before a trial starts. You know it's going to end up in documents. You know it's going to end up leaked. You know there's going to be rumors about it. You're giving that dude a chance to get on the road and hightail it out if he already hasn't hightailed it out.
well,
How do you ensure he'd ever end up in custody?
right. Here's the thing. Like, I got so much to say. So I don't know if you
Let us have it.
I don't know if you saw the recent court document that came out where there was a guy by the name of Brent Turvey that was identified for the first time. He's a forensic specialist who the defense brought in, and the only reason we know about it, as far as I know, is because the prosecution rebutted his testimony. He was a specialist. He's written 20 books that are called textbooks on forensic investigations. He specializes in what's called femicides, which is homicides against females, especially when there's an SA element to it. So he gave a professional testimony. And again, he's a textbook guy. He literally writes textbooks for college students to study criminal psychology and forensics. He said that he believes it was multiple accomplices that did the murders, and that Kaylee was attacked with more than one weapon. And he specifically said that. The prosecution basically said, so when that person said, Brent Turvey said, I believe in my professional opinion it was more than one accomplice that did the attacks, and more than one weapon was used. All that we heard about was the rebuttal, which was said, that guy also said when pressed on rebuttal, is it possible one person could have done it? And he said, yes, it is possible one person could have done it, but that's not what my opinion is. So that's the only reason I even heard about this whole thing, was that he literally, they were rebutting it was two people or more, and said, okay, when pressed, I can see how maybe one person could have done it. But again, my professional opinion is it's more than one person. Now, the last thing I want to say, because I realize I'm dominating a lot of time on your live here.
No, I love it. That's why I have you up here. I want to hear it.
There's a YouTuber that I follow a lot, and I trust his content, and I want to say that this is speculation, but I trust him. That's Harsh Reality. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Harsh Reality and his coverage of the Idaho 4. But he said he has seen, and he's trying to vet it to prove it, that Christy Gonzalez and the Gonzalez family, he believes it is proof that they still believe that they actually think there's more than one accomplice in this murder. And here's where his logic went, and I'll tell you, I follow his logic entirely. Steve Gonzalez wants retribution for what happened to his daughter. Anybody would. So if the Gonzalez really do believe that there was another accomplice and they're not looking for that other guy, it tells you one thing. That other guy's no longer here. He's either dead or he's in the wind, like you said, and we can't get to him. That's the only thing that would explain if the Gonzalezes really do believe there's an accomplice, but they're not pulling down heaven and earth to find that other guy, is that guy isn't here anymore. He's dead.
What if so I'm gonna chime in on this because I want to get your thoughts. So if it was the C word gang, what if they're not from the US?
Right.
And they live in Mexico, across the border, as Steve said.
Right. That's one option. There's also the option that everybody hates, which is, the individual that was shot and killed in Pullman a month after the thing. If he was involved in it, as I have often said that I have a strong feeling if he was involved in it, he's not here anymore. So there's nobody to prosecute. So then what do? You drop the idea of going after the accomplice because the accomplice isn't here anymore, and you go for the one guy that you do have. So I don't know what evidence Harsh Reality has seen that apparently Christy Gonzalez has stated somewhere publicly that they believe still that there was more than one person. So then it begs the question, why are we? Christy Gonzalez supposedly said somewhere in public that they believe that there was more than one person that went into the house that night. So if they do believe that, and yet all their focus is Brian Kohberger's the guy, then you have to ask, why are they not focused on the other person that was involved? Maybe they're not here anymore. So what we're trying to find out is, did Christy really say that? Did Christy really say that they think that there's another accomplice involved?
Right. And I'm going to show this window, and it's got I just typed into ChatGPT as far as the relations to the C word gang. And in general, though, you look at this, and I hope everybody can read that okay. You look at this, and it is interesting that I can never say it. It's what is it? Occam's razor or whatever Phoenix kept referring to.
Occam's razor, yeah.
Occam's razor. It's the simplest thing. What group has been known for just absolutely being brutal in that manner?
Yeah.
And over things that probably don't ever need that type of wild violence. And I don't know. So
yeah, there's a lot. And I don't know, Steve said another weird thing, by the way, that bugged the hell out of me. He made a comment. I don't know if you caught this. It's one of those things that just bugs me. He says, by the way, for those of you that think that Kohberger's a nice guy, he punched my daughter in the face. And I'm thinking to myself, so it's not bad enough that he killed your daughter, it's that he punched her in the face that makes him a bad guy? Do you really think people are out there saying, well, I thought he was a good guy until I found that he punched her in the face? It was an asinine statement, in my opinion.
Well, and my question is, with how fast that it went, and I don't know if you were tuned in yesterday, but Phoenix, the guest that I just had up, she did I forget how she used the word, but she simplified the timeline as far as the actual like unalivings occurring, and I believe she said it was like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So all I could think of is like, is he like ambidextrous because he's holding a large K-bar and then coming like, and Steve said he had it wrapped in a shirt, so it's not like the sheath was on his belt line or anything like clipped on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. And here's the thing: when you get into the timeline, it's really difficult, right? Because technically, the prosecution will give a timeline of 16 minutes, right? Because that's the last time you see the headlights hit the house at 4:07 a.m. You see it leaving at 4:20 a.m. So you got a 16-minute gap. And then there's the people that will say, "Oh my gosh, that gives you more than 5 minutes per room to kill people. That's way enough time. It's no problem." But again, by the way, I don't know if you saw Brent Turvey's opinion when he said that he thought it was multiple accomplices. He also gave a bombshell and said there is evidence at the scene, indirect and direct evidence, that the killer or killers took time cleaning up the scene. They were actually doing cleanup at the scene. So if there was, now you got to kill 4 people on 2 floors in a matter of minutes, under 10 minutes is what I've got it, maybe under 8 minutes, and now there's cleanup time involved in it as well. So I don't see how it's possible.
but it's the most secure case that the people who work on these types of cases every day, all day, according to SG, have ever seen.
Yeah.
And apparently the 8-hour delayed 911 call is going to be Brian Kohberger's nail in the coffin. That was a quote. So that delay is going to be his nail in the coffin. And then I don't know if you were on here, but we, for the people that are in the chat that maybe didn't hear that, we were like, well, how would that be a nail in the coffin? And Phoenix brought up the point of, well, the news of this all going down spread like wildfire. Like everybody on campus knew. And there's random videos out there, like, again, like WSU Kim, whether you want to say she's credible or not, but there's other examples of like people being at the house knowing that something had happened. And if Kohberger had Googled it before the 911 call, you know that is a nail in the coffin as far as like if he had heard something or maybe he was out and about and he then looked up what happened, they're just going to say, well, how did you know what happened? Is
right.
How I think.
Right. That, I mean, and that's a lot of speculation, but I think you're right. I think that is what the speculation is, right? Is that they've already laid down the evidence that Brian Kohberger was deleting his search history. So now the question is, was he Googling or trying to search to see if news had broken about the murders yet the day of the killing and these things? But again, it's all speculative at that point as well.
I didn't ask you the last time that I had you up here. And if I did, I'm sorry, but I forgot. What were your thoughts on Kohberger's phone pinging near and around the house as many times as it did? Because I think there's a chance that he was friends or was at a house for a certain reason that was near that King Road house. Sorry, my internet does that sometimes.
I mean, I think I may have commented on it briefly, only in the sense, like I said, I went to school there at WSU, and we traveled over to Moscow, Idaho on a regular basis. It is so common for people at WSU.
Did you guys hear what he said? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
So, say that again.
Well, what I was saying is students at WSU frequently go over to Moscow, Idaho. It's a common place. There's not a lot to do in Pullman, and there's also not a lot to do in Idaho and Moscow, but the two campuses touch each other. And when I went to school there, I frequently went to Moscow, Idaho. So they're trying to make this big deal that, what was he doing on Moscow, Idaho's campus? Everyone at WSU ends up over at Moscow, Idaho. It's just, they blend. All the people blend there between the two schools. It is not uncommon for students to end up from WSU at Pullman. So in that regards, saying that, his phone was pinging over there in Moscow, Idaho means nothing. Everyone at WSU is in Moscow, Idaho. It's just, they're just merged campuses, pretty much.
Right. Right. And I think I've asked you this, or I asked somebody else this. It's like, I think in addition to that, in a town like that, it would also not be unusual for like the community to be intermingled with the students, at least people maybe that aren't college students but are that age as well. So now, I mean, you literally have, it's not like a secluded college campus by any means from the rest of Moscow or Pullman.
Right. No. Yeah, there's just there's just a ton of interaction between the two. So I don't put a lot of weight into that. And they're trying to make a lot of weight into, well, it wasn't just that Kohberger was in Moscow, Idaho, but he was specifically near the King residence. And again, the whole cell phone ping data and all that stuff like that is being fought greatly in legal documents. I follow the court cases quite a bit, and there's constant fights over it, and it's nuanced, and it's one of those things that they're trying to resolve it in this process, which is the motions in limine, which is basically they said, hey, look, a jury is going to have to wade through a lot of technical data if we have to explain to them how cell phones work and how towers work and stuff like that. Can we agree that you guys screwed up on how you presented it, and it just shouldn't be a matter of discussion? But they're like, no, let the jury hear it. And it's going to be confusing. It's very, very confusing when you get into advanced timing records and when they couldn't have advanced timing records and what a ping means and it's going to get very, very nuanced. But I will tell you that experts are saying that the advanced timing records have been hidden by their prosecution because they know that there's a period of time when the advanced timing record shows Brian Kohberger where he's not supposed to be, and that they purposely hid that information and said, oh, well, we didn't have advanced timing records. So that's part of the fight. I know this is really confusing to people, but what's happening is advanced timing records, according to the defense, will show that Brian Kohberger wasn't where they said, where the prosecution says he was. And the prosecution saying, well, we don't even want to talk about advanced timing records. And the defense is like, yeah, you need to talk about advanced timing records because it shows our guy wasn't there. And they're fighting about whether or not we're going to use advanced timing records. And it's quite interesting in the court cases how they're fighting that out.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, and I think, too, like most people, you know, they'll at least be able to take like what you say if they don't fully understand it, or they'll bring it up in the chat. And again, shout out to the chat. It's always great when you guys do bring up points. Do you guys have any questions just from the film on, or not the film, but I guess the interview that we just watched with SG and Drunk Turkey, or anything that myself or Devil's Advocate or Phoenix had said? And we'll see what people say, but then Devil's Advocate, what I'm excited about is to dive into this Luigi case and kind of switch gears a little bit. And I guess too, I would ask the chat, is that a case that you guys are interested in? Because I don't know much about it, and Devil's Advocate was getting me, like, just the way that he was talking, he was getting me excited about like how much he knows about that. But
wait, we have people who don't know.
Chrissy,
oh my gosh,
we got roasted at the end.
Can't read case. I'm just reading through your comments as well.
Case.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of people are saying yes. I'm excited about it because Devil's Advocate, I don't really know like shit about it. So I'm going to be asking you questions that I'm just.
Well, and here's.
Hang on.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, here's the thing.
I was just going to say. I'm going to pull up this YouTube video because at the end, Chrissy's saying that he roasts us. I'm curious if at the end, are you talking about SG? Or are you just trolling Chrissy? Because honestly, I did feel slightly attacked about the funding where WSU and Idaho State. Now I know that's not like me patting myself on the back saying he saw our videos and stuff, but I will say we're the only people that has ever brought up the funding that I've seen.
Oh, is she saying that Steve Gonzalez called your show out on the Drunk Turkey show? Is that what she's saying?
I don't know. Let's see.
That's crazy. Wow, that would be crazy if he called you out, huh?
Oh, she said no.
Oh.
Well, I don't know what that means then. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with the chat to know what time that what the timestamp is, what they're responding no or yes to. But so here's the thing. I'm a little bit nervous about Luigi for this reason for you. So I have had one restriction where I lost live access for an entire week for talking about Pam Bondi and Karen DiNiffolo's fight in the court system, which was all mainstream media, and I got suspended for a week. So part of the reason why I would love, and I plan to, but I was wanting to go co-host because I was thinking if I go over the top and TikTok decides to punish my account, it won't have any negative effect on you. They'll just shut my feed off. Whereas if I'm a guest on your feed, you're partly responsible for the things out of my mouth, and I don't want to get you any kind of repercussion for talking about it. TikTok is extremely sensitive about Luigi Mangione. And so I would love to talk about it. I want to talk about it, but I was hoping to do it in such a way that I don't run any risk of getting a negative repercussion for yourself.
I'm going to see if ChatGPT knows. Is there a lockdown on the Luigi case via TikTok algorithm.
They will say no. I've looked into that. It's very nuanced. It's very nuanced. But yeah, feel free to. But they'll tell you that it's not a forbidden topic. I'll do my. I mean, it's up to you, man. Like I feel like I kind of understand where the line is, so I think I can do it on your show. But I really don't want to have you have any kind of punishment whatsoever.
Oh, see, like now the case. Honestly, so it's interesting. I just pulled it up. Yeah, reports indicate that this Luigi Mangione content is a quote-unquote designated hate entity on the platform right now.
Right. So, and the reason being is that they believe that anybody who, for example, expresses sentiment that a person is innocent until proven guilty. If you don't say he's guilty, then you're promoting hate speech. You're basically supporting what he did and saying that it's okay. So you're only allowed to really talk about it if you say he's guilty and you don't have the presumption of innocence. And if you try to explain the nuances of the case about what happened, depending on the day, somebody says that you're promoting hate speech because you're suggesting somehow that it was okay what happened. That's the problem.
Okay, and so you were saying that if you co-host, I'm not responsible.
So yeah, so here's the thing. If we co-host, what literally happens is you're going live and I'm going live, and we just merge our two things, and therefore, my followers are watching me and hearing me and you. But if they decide to cut my feed because I said something wrong, it'll just end our co-hosting live, and you'll be by yourself, and you're like, well, there goes Devil's Advocates. Bye bye. See you again sometime.
Gone forever.
Right.
No, okay.
Right.
All right. Well then, hey, how about this, chat? I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna set up a co-host. It's gonna take 2 minutes. So watch for the circle around my profile picture to turn red. Okay.
Yeah, and I will also have to start my live, and then maybe you can invite me once you get the live going, and we should be able to set it up.
Let me see in the chat. Everybody, type number 1 if you understand and you're interested and you're going to rejoin for that case. I just want to make sure that everyone's on board with this too, because I'm guessing a lot of. Okay, hell yeah, let's go. This chat rules.
All right,
you guys rock. All right, Devil's Advocate. See you soon. It's see you soon.
All right, YouTube, we're going to try to work this out, so we'll see. I'm going, as you can see, I'm going live, and once it looks like they've notified me. So now if I go to hosts, and where's Birdie? Where's Birdie? Invite. Oh God, I hope they didn't invite everybody. Cancel. Oh, wow.
You want a battle?
Person of interest in United. All right, I'm screwing this up because when I hit the invite, I'm inviting 54 people and not just Birdie. So I need to find just Birdie. Just Birdie. Fuck me. Pardon my French, people. If I do invite, I apparently do invites to everyone. Good Lord. What is my technical difficulties? You guys, he should show up like he did for me earlier, right down there. Search. Birdie. There he is, and he's offline. You can only co-host with friends or people you may know. Well, it's not going to work. Sheesh Bob. One more time, I'm going to search for him. Nope, it's just not. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank goodness. I was having a really hard time finding you to invite you. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, buddy. I don't know why I kept going to invite you and it said you were offline, and so we were having all kinds of issues. So
it's got me way zoomed in.
Yeah, right. Because we have to split the screen, and now we have to
there
get.
we go.
Yeah, you can hear me fine.
Backdrop looks good. Yeah, dude. You know, I gotta tell you, I'm proud of myself for this damn wallpaper that I put up behind me.
Yeah,
It looks good when it's just blocked out like this.
right. Yeah, yeah. You're so used to the widescreen format. Now you're looking like, hey, that looks pretty sharp, right?
No, it looks good.
All right.
Good.
So, the good news and the bad news. The good news is it does look like we're co-hosting. So now if I say something horrible, it should be a punishment on me only and not on you. So that's a good news. Bad news is we lost a bunch of our audience, right? So now we have to see if
Come back.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know if we want to wait a minute or two just to see if we get some of them back or just go straight into it. But certainly I'm willing to.
Why don't we give it five
yeah,
minutes?
just a couple minutes and give it. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to go fill up some water, take a leak.
Yeah.
So, I gotta tell you, as far as the, like, and I just gotta move this because I like to sit this way. I gotta tell you, there is something about, and I don't want to keep diving into the Steve interview.
Yeah.
Dude, there's something off about him.
There is.
Genuinely.
There
is
is.
something so off about him, and it makes no sense to me, and I don't understand
And you know what?
why he's doing anything that he is.
And here's another thing. I don't know if you caught this, and I look for subtle cues. He was asked at one point during that Drunk Turkey interview about alternate suspects. And Steve, in my opinion, looks like he's even a little bit willing to accept that there might be somebody else. He kind of hesitates. Even when he talks about Jack DeCour, which he says he's convinced is not involved, he sometimes says, you know, if you try hard enough, you can find explanations on how he still could have been involved. But I don't think he was because, you know, they know where his cell phone was that night. They know, you know, whatever. But there's still moments of reservation on Steve's face that I detect, little subtle things when they ask him about other people that he seems to think that there's still a possibility, even though he's like, hey, look, Kohberger's the guy, and I know he is, and I'm convinced of it. Let's just go get him. There's still moments where I feel like he shows hesitancy, but
I thought it was weird. He's like, yeah, I'm going to have him over to my house. We're going to go fishing. I'm going to take him to a remote area in the woods. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere near that. So to me, I'm immediately like, you know,
yeah.
I have a, like, I guess you could call it like a Marine family. Like, my father-in-law, I think I told you this, like, father-in-law is like MARSOC.
Yeah.
Seen some shit. And, like, then I have cousins that are Marines and stuff, but just, like, they don't even talk like that. I know it's different, like, law enforcement and military, but, like, in a way, like, that guy seems like he's actively doing briefs, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to make about him. I mean, there's times I feel super sympathetic to the guy for his loss and what happened there, for sure. And then there's times that I'm thinking he's trying to control the narrative too much, and I'm suspicious about why it is he's going on every photo op and every opportunity to go do interviews and stuff like that. So I don't know what to really make of him. I've got mixed feelings about him.
Yeah, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
I just signed on. Oh, there we go. Cool. Well, we got about 100 people in here.
All right.
I think what would be helpful for me, can you start from, because I was at the gym on the treadmill when I seen the headlines pop up of this all going down. I've heard some fringe, when I say fringe, I'm not even going to say what I've heard is fringe. I'm saying just in scrolling, you know, watch some videos on some stuff where I'm like, now, like, one of the ones that stuck with me is I'm like, this guy got arrested at McDonald's. Like, just like some weird coincidences that I'm curious if you're going to dive into on that.
For sure.
But if you want to kind of start from, like, the background, whatever you feel like you want to talk about with it, I want to know, because I don't know that much about it, so I'm curious. So
there's periods I think that you're going to really be intrigued about from things that we've talked about. So first of all, let me say this. It looked like there was a fair number of people in your room that weren't familiar with it, so I'll kind of start from the beginning. On December 4th, basically 2024, Brian Thompson, who was the CEO of United Healthcare, was at an investor conference, and he walked across the street from the hotel where he was staying to go be part of an investor conference that morning. And somebody stepped out. It was early morning. I think it was like 6:40 in the morning. So it was still dark in New York, but it was on a mainstream Manhattan street, and basically gunned him down right there in front of the investor conference. Now, the big one that caught everybody's attention was the bullet casings. There was 3 bullet casings. The shooter got hit all 3 shots and didn't miss in the back. The bullet casings left at the scene had words etched into them: deny, defend, depose. And it was written in Sharpie, and it was scratched in on the bullet casings. This made national news because there was a book that was released not too much before that called Delay, Deny, Defend, and how insurance companies basically have a strategy to not pay insurance claims and deny your coverage, and so people die while they're waiting for coverage. And so right away the media picked up on, oh my gosh, this is like some kind of a revenge killing. And as it was, by the way, United Healthcare had been in the news for about a year for leading the way in all health insurance companies in the United States for denials of claims. They have implemented, and it was mainstream media news, that they had implemented an AI program that was denying about 90% incorrect denials of people's insurance claims and denying people's coverage. And so they were being investigated by the Department of Justice. There's a huge thing that happened just before the shooting where a firefighter's pension fund was decimated because the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, and his one-up, the parent company, which is United Health Group, Andrew Whitty, they both cashed out about $50 million of their personal stock before it was announced to the public that they were under investigation by the Department of Justice. So they got out before the stock crashed. So when the stock crashed, people lost a whole bunch of money in their pension plans, and it basically put a lot of people in America as wanting some revenge because they were decimated. And basically the CEOs got out early because they had insider information. They knew they were under investigation by the Department of Justice. And it's a long story, so I'm just trying to give you a primer. Basically, United Healthcare purchased a smaller company that would basically give them a monopoly, and the Department of Justice told them, "Do not buy that company. It's a antitrust case." They went ahead and did it anyways. Go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah. Okay. So I thought that he was personally going through some BS financially with United Healthcare.
The shooter?
Luigi. Yeah.
So let me clarify that. No. So let me clarify my stance again. We don't know that Luigi Mangione is the shooter. That's what the prosecution is alleging, and of course I believe in the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. We know the shooter had a mask on his face. There's a whole bunch of stuff about that, but let's assume for a moment that Luigi Mangione could be the shooter. No, he was not. It has come out over and over again. He had no business ties with United Healthcare. He was not a patient of United Healthcare. No one in his family was a patient of United Healthcare. So this wasn't a Luigi Mangione very personal beef. There was an early manifesto that was released, and it was a fake manifesto. It was proved fake, but it got media attention right away, that the shooter, his mom was suffering horrible, debilitating pain. He couldn't stand seeing his mom suffer anymore, and he did this basically as an act of revenge for his mother because United Healthcare denied and screwed around with her claims. That all turned out to be completely debunked. It's not true. It's not the manifesto that they now say is Luigi's manifesto. So that's part of that rumor that you may have heard, that he had a beef with United Healthcare because of his mom and her sickness. He also had a back injury, a spondy injury with a back injury, and some people said that he had beef about that. But again, United Healthcare, he was not a client of United Healthcare, nor was his family. So to clarify that part.
So, PSYOP, frame job, like what does this look like then? Because that's so interesting. There seems like there's obviously with the words written on the shell cases.
Well, let me tell you, I'm just scratching the surface. So okay. When the shooter finished the shooting, they basically jogged across the street. It wasn't in a real rush. It looked very, very professional. In fact, a lot of people, when I first got interested in this case, it was because a buddy and I were arguing about whether or not that was a professional hit or whether that was just some random person irritated at the health insurance industry. And so we argued because there was indications that looked professional, that the person had very, very calm, cooled, under no stress at all. The gun jams, he clears the jams on the street very, very very quickly and moves on. So there's a lot of reasons to think that this person was a cool cucumber who had done something like this before. Now, my interest really, really peaked when the first documentary came out about Luigi Mangione, and they admitted on the documentary that the shooter took an e-bike into Central Park. And what they pointed out in the video, this first documentary, was there are cameras everywhere in New York City, but the one place, oddly enough, where there's not a lot of cameras is in Central Park. And when he went into Central Park, law enforcement lost him off of camera for quite some time. Then somebody is seen exiting Central Park further away with similar clothing, not exactly the same, on an e-bike, and then all hands on deck start following this guy. They later found a backpack that matches the backpack of the shooter in the park that was dumped behind in the park, and it was containing Monopoly money. Which, and now, what?
I was just going to say, there's a couple questions. What's the name of that documentary?
The first one was, I think it was the New York Post documentary called. It's on my website. I can get you the. I can
No rush.
I can get you that. But yeah, there's 4 documentaries on them, and I think it was one of the first ones, the first one that was ever done. It could have been in 2020, which it might have been 2020. 2020 had one. New York Times or New York Post did one. TMZ did one, and the last one was done by Discovery Channel, and that one was the best one, by the way. But
The Discovery Channel was?
Yeah, yeah. So
now didn't some dude, kind of like you and me or like anybody in the chat, didn't like some young kid figure this out with the e-bikes and tracking it?
So there's been a million people looking into the e-bike situation, but let me finish the thought on that, which is that the Monopoly money was the first kind of like, why Monopoly money? And it turned out, by the way, that Luigi Mangione co-founded a game club at the University of Pennsylvania, which is called the Upgrade Club. It was the University of Pennsylvania Game Research and Development Environment. He was part of a nerdy gamer group kind of thing, and there was several quote-unquote Easter eggs that seemed to be hidden by the shooter. The Monopoly money was one. There was the fact that Luigi Mangione had a social media thing on X where he had a Pokemon representing his feed, and it was number 286, and 286 is the same number as the denial codes of healthcare. So 286 is denial of claim, meaning you took too long to fight your claim, and we automatically denied you because you ran out of time. That's code 286. So he had a Pokemon 286. Also, the very last post that Luigi Mangione made on that account was number 286, and then he stopped posting. So all of a sudden, people like me were saying, that's not a coincidence. So he's trying to leave a message. Somebody's trying to leave a message about the 286, the denial of claim, the Monopoly money. There's a game going on. And so I created some videos early on saying, I have a game theory that there's more than one person involved, that a group of computer nerds could have pulled this off together, and that there are at least 3 different people, maybe 2 different people, and that there was what I called the Luigi shuffle, that the person went into the park on the e-bike and then swapped places. Somebody else got on an e-bike and went out the park. It's a different person than the shooter, and that shooter walked out the park scot-free. They changed clothes, somebody dressed similar went out the other side, and everybody followed that guy. And there was all kinds of people going around town that they had on. They had a guy that looked just like him going into a bus station. They had a guy that looked like him that was on a taxi. They had a guy that looked just like him, all dressed the same. And I said, this is a group of people that may have actually purposely misled law enforcement so they wouldn't be able to follow the shooter. And I think the shooter's long gone. 5 days later, Luigi Mangione's picked up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, with allegedly the same clothes on as the shooter, the shooting. He's got the gun in his backpack. He's got a manifesto confessing to the entire crime in his backpack. And that became a shitstorm because the arrest in Altoona was an illegal arrest, in my opinion, and according to his lawyer's opinion, and I agree with that assessment. So, and then there's one more thing I wanted to point out about why I think you might find this super interesting. And then we can go wherever you want on the case because I realize it's a lot of information. So there was a moment when, in one of the documentaries or two, where there was a talk about a guy by the name of Gurwinder Gurwinder Bogle. And he had written some think tank articles and stuff like that on stuff. And one of his articles that he wrote that Luigi apparently loved was an article that said, basically, are you an NPC? Remember you and I talked about being NPCs? Oh, yeah. Right? Okay. So he says, are you an NPC? He said Luigi loved this article so much about whether or not people are really playing the game of life or whether they're just NPCs and they're just acting on autopilot. And supposedly Luigi became kind of friends with them and had a one-on-one conversation in which Luigi told him he had a fear of becoming an NPC. That he didn't want to be just a floater in life doing nothing. That he didn't want to be an NPC. And so I began to start to think, like, is that what happened here? Did he decide that, look, we've got a broken healthcare system and somebody needs to do something about it, and I can be an NPC like everybody else and just take it and not address the big problem that we have, or I can do something, I can play the game. So I started to ask that question. Now that's what gets me in trouble with TikTok, right? Because that suggests to you that somehow you think it's okay that somebody is questioning our broken healthcare system and did something about it. And so that's kind of where I'm going with all that. But I thought you might find it interesting on the NPC thing since we talked about it.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I'm pretty sure me bringing up the NPC thing is what led us to start even bringing up this case. But so are you then in that, just to make sure I'm following that, so you're saying that Luigi then agreed to be a part in it, even though he's not the actual person who did it? Or are you saying, like, when you said he said, all right, I'm going to do something about it, I'm going to change it?
So I'm
clarify that part at the end.
Like you, I'm willing to entertain multiple different scenarios. There's a scenario in which, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie and the book called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, but there's a movie called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. It's written after a nonfiction book, but they made a fiction movie out of it. And How to Blow Up a Pipeline's premise is this. A group of 20-something-year-olds from all different walks of life got together and decided that they needed to stop environmental terrorism, these big companies that pollute the skies and do all kinds of things, and they make people sick. And so a group of 20-something-year-olds got together and they decided to commit an act of eco-terrorism. And what they decided in the movie was one person was going to take the fall so that the rest of them could get away and do it again. And they could start a revolution in the country. So then I asked myself the question, what if this is a similar situation? What if, for example, there was a group that pulled this off? This is why there's multiple people seen dressed similarly, but not exactly the same guy. And what if one of that group, who may or may not actually be the shooter, decided that they would take the fall and put the U.S. healthcare system on trial through this, while the rest of the people who are involved, the other conspirators, are free out there and can do it again, kind of thing. So that was just it was one theory, is that, because people would ask me, well, if Luigi was involved, why the hell would he go on the run for 5 days and then just turn himself in and sit in a McDonald's with the manifesto on him and just turn himself in? Why would that make any sense? And so there's all these theories. Is he a fall guy? Was he part of a group and he didn't plan on taking the fall? Or was he part of the group and he decided to take a fall because they're mimicking How to Blow Up a Pipeline, where one of them agrees to take the fall, and all these different scenarios?
Or gave him time to get away.
Or gave time away for the shooter to get away, right?
Yeah. So, like, here's where, first of all, I'm so glad that we decided to do this, because my brain is racing, and I'm gonna try to not let my ADD brain take over and actually keep going down this path. But I want to make a general comment about these types of, like, crimes. And it seems that whenever they're not solved quickly or they make no sense, sometimes I'm like, that's how you almost know it's a legitimate crime and it's not some sort of psyop, it's not some sort of bigger operation going on, is when you hear things that are like, okay, wow, you could probably pull something like that off, planned very well, like it sounds like this was, with multiple people potentially, little kind of like game theory, as you were saying. That makes a lot of sense to me, and it would make sense why it would be so confusing. And there's no narrative around it other than the one, and it's just that they got the guy. It's because, again, I've always said this: America values closure,
yes, versus
the truth,
right?
And it follows that principle. But right. It is interesting.
Well, part of me said, and here's the thing, like, part of me said, okay, here's the difficulty. If Luigi Mangione was involved in the situation, and if it was some kind of like How to Blow Up a Pipeline situation, which a group of people did it and one guy decided to take the fall, at first I thought to myself, I don't know if you saw it, but there was an early video of Luigi Mangione after his arrest where he has a super cocky swagger and he looks at the camera and he's just kind of like, what's up? You know, like, and I said to myself, and he had a smile on his face, and I said to myself, that's the look of one of two things. Either it's a guy who did it and he's comfortable with what he did, he's proud of his actions because he's proud of it and he has no shame in what he did, or he knows something we don't know and he's going to walk, and he knows he's got to get out of jail. To be the Monopoly theme, he's got to get out of jail free card somewhere. Now, what would be the get out of jail? Right, what would be the get out of jail free card situation? Here's what it would be. In my opinion, when you break down the analysis of the shooting, the shooter is barehanded. He's holding a gun barehanded. He also is seen on video very, very clearly setting down a piece of DNA touched thing on top of a trash pile right in front of a camera, as if he wants the camera to see, hey, my fingers are on this piece of equipment or this piece of garbage, and he places it on top of a pile of garbage right in plain sight of a camera. Supposedly, Luigi was picked up in Altoona with gloves, with black gloves in his belongings. So why didn't the shooter wear gloves? Unless the shooter isn't the same person as Luigi, and he knows my fingerprints aren't on that gun, my fingerprints aren't on that piece of trash left at the scene. That was deliberately planted so you would see it, and then later when you pick me up and you're like, hey, this is the guy, you're going to find those fingerprints don't match, because I'm not the shooter. And I thought, well, is he setting them up? Now, the problem with that is that, in my opinion, we don't play fair in this country, and if they want him for this, they will just make sure the evidence fits the case, and so that would be an overplay on their part if they were trying to do something like that. But do you follow the logic at all? What I'm saying, that maybe it was intentionally said.
Yeah, this is right up my alley. Like, I think that from what I remember, he was a pretty smart dude, right?
Yes.
He went to Ivy League,
Yep.
and he was like credentialed that he would be creative or smart and
Yes.
able to have like those Easter eggs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of potential Easter eggs, which really intrigued me because, again, I think like you're like me. Like, you see those kind of things and you're like, oh, I can follow the trail here. We got a game going on. And there's more, by the way. There's things about the bus route that he took that mimics the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Monopoly game. There's all kinds of Easter egg clues that potentially.
It's literally he's following Monopoly.
Right. And at some level, you have to ask yourself, is it coincidences or did they purpose? And in fact, one of the things I got in trouble for, get this, I got in trouble for this for copyright infringement over a game. What I mentioned was Luigi in the two-player game Mario Brothers is player 2. Player 1 is Mario, right? So I said, what if Luigi is just player 2? What if Mario's still in the wind? What if there's a player 1 who's Mario and he's literally literally and figuratively the Luigi to a Mario? And here's what's interesting about that, in my opinion. The false ID that Luigi Mangione presented to Altoona, Pennsylvania said his name was Mark Rosario. And I said, that sounds a lot like Mario. I mean, just Mark Rosario, Mario. Were they trying to lay more Easter eggs? There is a Mario out there. And that's why Mark Rosario sounds so much like Mario and why Luigi is Luigi. Is there a partnership? And somebody out there in the wind is the Mario, player 1. And I got in trouble for, you can't talk about the Mario Brothers, that's copyrighted stuff, and, take that video down. So I was like, oh, whatever.
So, what was the thing that made you start thinking of this game theory? I'm curious.
Honestly, the moment that I got the game theory was when I saw the first documentary. When I found out that the bag was full of Monopoly money, and that he went off camera for some time and they lost him and then picked up another person. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, because again, I don't know if you've seen the Thomas Crown Affair movie with Pierce Brosnan in it, but there's a scene in the Thomas Crown Affair that reminded me just exactly what could have happened in the park, which is that law enforcement's watching for somebody, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people show up all wearing exactly the same clothes, and cops don't know who to follow. Like, wait a minute, he's over here. No, wait a minute, he's over there. And like, there's another guy with the bowler hat on, and they're following different leads, and they lose the real killer, the real person. And in the Thomas Crown Affair, it was an art thief, but they lose him because he's got other people planted that look just like him, and they're following false leads everywhere. And I just, when I saw that, for some reason, when I heard that they lost him on camera in Central Park, they found the backpack full of Monopoly money, and then they see somebody else leaving the park. My first question was, how do we know that's the same guy? Like, they want to tell you definitively, we see him going into the park and coming out of the park. But what if it's not the same guy? What if the shooter is not the same one who came out the other side? So that's where I started to get into the whole game theory. Was there a switcheroo played in the park, and a different person came out the park than went into the park?
And they for sure would not tell the public if they didn't realize that until after the fact, because then there's a monster still on the loose and it creates a public panic, and right now they do have that closure.
And in fact, there was early indications that I've seen little hints that they made a statement, for example, that they say, at this time, we believe he acted alone. There was a period of time when I don't think they thought he acted alone. They were thinking the same thing I was, that there was multiple people. This was a coordinated thing. There's another point I want to bring up about that real quick. I realize I'm stream of consciousing all over the place.
No, go for it.
That shooter is on a phone call, making a cell phone call just before they shot Brian Thompson. Who's that phone call? I make this joke all the time. He's not calling a pizza in, and he's not taking a phone call from his mom. So if you're on a phone call just before you're about to commit murder, before you're about to do something horrendous, who are you calling? It indicates to me there's an accomplice. He's calling the accomplice. Somebody on the inside of the hotel is saying Brian Thompson's on his way out in 5 minutes. Because he shows up literally in time to be in the right place at the right time when Brian comes across the street. How did he know that? Who is he on the phone with? That phone call is an accomplice, in my opinion. It's not a pizza.
Yes, and two things. I was gonna say it's either exactly what you just laid out, or it's like, is he calling the person that's waiting for him in Central Park?
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Is my getaway ready? Am I? Those are all things that you, just like me, you have to ask. That phone call's either, where is he at, or it's the, hey, I'm about to do this. Do I have my getaway in place? To me, that's just. It's a logical place my mind goes. Is it, of course, possible that he's about to do this and he got a phone call from a friend? He's like, hey, I'm busy right now. I'll call you back. Maybe. I don't think that's realistic. It's a lot less realistic than the idea that there's an accomplice in this situation.
And also, too, one of the things that I've realized is a phone call, if it was a burner phone, is way smarter than a text message, because the phone call is only going to show the number.
Yeah.
So, because even like right when you were saying that, I'm like, well, why would you need to do the call? Well, because if you find the text with dude's name that he's on his way down, he's heading to the coffee shop. Now, my question is, how would they know he's going to the coffee shop? Because he was in the coffee shop, and now the CEO went into the coffee shop as well, correct? Or was it just outside of the coffee shop and the
No.
the dude who was?
So
Yeah, well,
so
tell
from
me about that.
so from what I understand is, the shooter allegedly, who they believe is Luigi Mangione, was staying at basically a hostel, right? So it's a kind of a hotel hostel area where people just randomly share rooms. By the way, the shooter, if it was Luigi Mangione, had 2 roommates that we haven't talked about, and who were his 2 roommates? Were their accomplices? But anyways, he basically takes an e-bike and he goes down to Manhattan where Brian Thompson's at a hotel. He's staying across the street. So first of all, you got to ask yourself, how did the shooter know Brian Thompson was not staying at the same hotel where the conference is at? He was actually staying across the street. Apparently, the shooter knew that. The shooter shows up, and while he's waiting for Brian Thompson to come out, and how does the shooter know when Brian Thompson is going to come out? He goes to a Starbucks, he gets himself a Kind bar and a bottled water, he's killing time, and then he's magically in the right place at the right time when Brian Thompson comes out of the house, out of the store. So no, I don't believe Brian Thompson ever went to Starbucks. The shooter did go to a Starbucks before the shooting, somehow, because I think, again, logic tells me the shooter knew Brian Thompson wasn't on his way out yet. If the shooter doesn't know exactly when Brian Thompson's coming out, and his goal is to take out Brian Thompson, he's not going to be stopping at a Starbucks getting water and a Kind bar, because he might miss his opportunity. He obviously knew he still had time. Now, to counter that real quick, I realize you got something you want to say too. To counter that a little bit, some people will say Luigi himself supposedly in some writing, manifesto or whatever, said that he did simple social engineering. So was he on the phone? Did he talk to somebody in the hotel? Did he get somebody on the inside willing to say what Brian Thompson's doing and when he's coming out? No hotel gives out information about their who's staying in what room or what time they're coming. But was he good at social engineering? Did he just social engineering? Is that how it happened? I don't know. That's the devil's advocates to the accomplice theory, is he was using social engineering.
Now, I had heard a rumor that whatever investment meeting that was supposed to occur still occurred. Like, pretty much this dude was unalived in front of the hotel where all the people that had to go sit in that boardroom to go meet for, like, this financial business review or investor meeting, they pretty much might as well stepped over the body at that point, because it was still going to happen. Is that true?
I personally believe it's somewhat true and somewhat not true. So it is my understanding that the investor meeting started on time, I think, but at some point in the early part of that meeting, they found out what happened and they said, "Hey, we just lost somebody, and we're going to put an end to this." So I think that the investor conference kind of did start, I think, but it was cut short. And then they broke the news, and then they stopped the conference.
Yeah, I could see that making sense, but I'm also curious, like, unless they were all already in the hotel, like, unless everybody was staying there, I'd be like, how does nobody know there's commotion? Or, like, if you're down, if you're getting ready prior to the meeting, you'd think you'd see.
Well, to answer that,
presence of people.
Right. To answer that, there's 2 entrances into the hotel. There's a side entrance and a front entrance. And apparently Brian was going in through the side entrance, which again leads to ask the question, how did the shooter know Brian was going to be taking a side entrance into the hotel and not the main entrance? So that's another thing is it's possible, again, that people who were going to the investor conference were coming in through the main entrance, not through the side entrance, and therefore just kind of saw sirens and stuff going on the side, but don't really know what the whole deal is. And then sometime in the middle of that meeting, they get notified what's going on and they stop the meeting. So I don't know, but that's best.
What about like an inside? Like, do you think there was an inside person that was in on this?
So
was close to Brian Thompson.
So here's where I'll go with that. It's so much. I've been following this now for so much. I'm so embroiled in the court case. I follow all 3 court jurisdictions. By the way, he's being tried in the state of New York. He's been tried by the federal government in New York, and he's also being tried in Pennsylvania where they arrested him. So he's got 3 different court systems that he's fighting, and I follow all the legal documents and all of the people. So again, if you're new to this and you want to hear my breakdowns, please do follow my stuff. But where it was going with that is there's a money element. I always say in a case, follow the money, right? So it's hard. It's so much. I try to summarize. Yes, I think there's an element, to answer your question, I think there's a possibility that it was an inside hit by the insurance industry themselves on Brian Thompson. One of the big shockers that just came out was that United Healthcare announced where they spent their money last year, and they spent no money on Brian Thompson's personal security, no money on his on private security for him, but they did for other CEOs. So why didn't they protect Brian Thompson? A former bodyguard of Brian Thompson has been interviewed and said, I can't believe Brian Thompson didn't have bodyguards with him that morning. That's the biggest lapse in security I've ever seen. United Healthcare didn't provide him coverage. Why? Did somebody in United Healthcare want him dead? Now, the question you have to ask yourself about that, where's the money come from? Well, when Brian Thompson was in charge, they became under investigation by the Department of Justice. Also, that Change Health company that they bought was hacked, and they lost $1 billion in about one day. It took a ton of profits down. And so what you have now is a motive, right? Somebody could be pissed off. He cost them a lot of money. Under his leadership, they got hacked. They were under investigation. And there's a speculation. Brian Thompson and Andrew Whitty were set to still testify before the Department of Justice about what exactly happened. Was Brian Thompson going to open his mouth about something? And so if that's the case, did somebody within the industry shut him up so he can't talk about the money? Because they lost $1 billion at least. 1.2 or 1.6 billion was the last number I heard.
What would he have whistleblown on?
Well,
that was already known that they lost the money. So, and it seems like it was known they were hacked. Was he going to say who or how, or what do you think?
My theory, if you play that out, is simply that he was going to possibly give up. So he made a lot less money on selling the stock before it was made known they were under investigation by the Department of Justice. He only sold about $15 million of his shares, where I think Andrew Whitty sold like $120 million of his own stock, that kind of thing. So where I'm going with that is that it's possible, for example, with the Department of Justice also investigating a class action lawsuit against United Healthcare for their CEOs selling off stock, that he was going to turn on them basically and say, hey, look, yeah, we did know about this and we did manipulate this, and several of us got out early and took out a cash out, but you know what, mine was only 15 million, theirs was like 120 million, and so maybe it was something to do with that, and maybe they were like, yeah, you're not going to have that day in court, so
see that to me too. I would think that a company as big as that, like, now you could argue a company that big has a lot of strings they could pull, and they have a lot of probably confidence that they can get away with it, but I feel like there's probably the strings you could have pulled where that lawsuit would have never seen the light of day if it did happen that way.
Yeah.
And instead, you choose a super public setting in a very odd way. You make it the most wild case. One of the most wild cases in the recent news cycle.
Yeah.
And it gets like an entire movement behind it.
Well, and see,
terribly
and this is what makes what makes the case so interesting to me. Obviously, you have to understand there's a huge amount of what I would call fangirls, right? That think Luigi Mangione is this sexy Italian, good-looking, fit, swagger guy with full of confidence, and they just love his looks. And they see he's a nice guy. There's a lot of stuff online that shows that Luigi is a genuinely nice guy that loves people. And so they don't see... There's a lot of people who just think there's no way this nice, innocent boy who is smart in school and loves people is going to be a murderer. So there's a large base of his fans who say, he's innocent and there's no way he did it. He's being set up by somebody. So you could play out the scenario of if it was a professional hit and they pegged Luigi as someone they're gonna take the fall for them. That a professional hitman did it and they set up Luigi. That could be one way of doing it. There's also the possibility again that Luigi was involved and people are missing the whole message, which was because again, Luigi Mangione supposedly wrote on Reddit that he did have a beef with the healthcare industry and as a whole, and he told people that, look, I'm not the best guy to explain to you how bad our healthcare system is, but you should watch Sicko by Michael Moore and read the book by Elizabeth Rosenthal called An American Sickness. It'll explain everything. Now, I've started a book club, by the way, where I'm reading American Sickness chapter by chapter, and it is horrendous. Our medical system is horrendous, and United Healthcare was the top of the list of abusing the system for their own financial benefit. So if you've got that kind of situation, people have pointed out, it's how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? If Luigi did it, again, presumption of innocent, he's innocent until proven guilty, but if he did it and he wanted people to wake up to just how bad the healthcare system is, then people are failing him by making this about how hot he is and how he's this big sex symbol instead of focusing on what the message was, which is putting the healthcare system on trial. So that becomes the whole question. Is this whole trial about putting a spotlight on the healthcare system in America and putting the healthcare system on trial, or is it, as the prosecutions want to say, it has nothing to do with healthcare. It has to do with this one person who killed an innocent man and father of two. End of story. We're not going to put the American healthcare system on trial. So that's a big thing playing out in the courts. Is I think his defense is going to try to put the healthcare system on trial in this thing and say that it was an act of self-defense, meaning that if Luigi did it, he did it to save lives, because people's lives are being lost every time they deny claims for someone and someone dies while they're waiting for care that they should have received, and therefore it was an act of self-defense. And they're setting up that argument. I can tell you how I believe that they're setting that up. But right now, of course, officially they've said our guy's innocent. We're not saying he's guilty. But if he did it, the healthcare system is the reason.
You know, I was just like, I lost my father to cancer about 7-8 years ago now, and I saw firsthand the wild bills and the stuff that you go through. I know there's a lot of other people out there that did. I'm not saying that there's any, I would never be, I don't think anybody should ever lose their life for like a justification of something. Genuinely, I don't. However, the movement of healthcare companies needing to be put on trial is a big enough motivation for a lot of people out there. They would unalive somebody to justify what they and millions of others gone through. I see that as being a reason. I could see that snapping somebody.
So I want to stop you because I agree with you. And what you're saying is how I got banned, I think, because what you're saying is you understand why somebody would do something like that, and that's considered hate speech.
I love TikTok Shop. I love TikTok Shop. I love TikTok Shop. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it's interpreted. If you have the audacity to say, hey, look, just like you said, and I'll say it for you so that I can get banned and not you, just like you said, I don't condone violence. I don't condone this is the way to solve our problems. Having said that, I can understand why somebody thought it maybe takes something that extreme, because protests don't work, bringing in new legislatures don't work, protesting outside their corporate office doesn't work. Nothing ever works. Maybe somebody needed to take it a step higher. So I can understand that logic, just like I can understand, I'll take another risk. If a man is beating a woman repeatedly over the course of their marriage and she ends up one day blowing him away with a gun, the prosecution's going to say, did she or did she not fire the bullet? Yes, end of story. She's a murderer then. And yet a jury will say, I understand why she pulled the trigger. So if you can do the same logic here, yeah, maybe he did, or maybe he didn't pull the trigger. But if he did, and while I don't condone that, I can understand why somebody got to that point.
So you were about to say you could see a path or two on how you think that defense is going to play out. What were they? Yeah,
so this was super fascinating to me. So there was a Law and Order TV show. The episode was called Folk Hero. It was based off of Luigi Mangione. It was very, very clearly. It was someone who shot a CEO of a healthcare company right in downtown Manhattan, and the whole show was based off of this trial. What's interesting to note about that is Luigi Mangione's lawyer, Karen Ignifilo, is an advisor to Law and Order. She's literally on the TV show's advising panel. In that episode of Law and Order, the whole premise of the show was, yes, the guy did shoot the CEO, but it was a defense of others situation. He was doing it as an act of self-defense. The reason being is they showed in this fictional trial, they showed an expert come on and talk about how many lives are lost every single day by denials of claims, and it was something like 46,000 something people per day die every single day because of denial of claims. And so, right, and by the way, those are factual numbers. I've looked up and done a whole bunch of research, right? So what they pointed out in the episode is they tried to make this argument. So you're saying that if the denials of claim weren't happening, there'd be 46,000 more people walking alive right now today. And it was kind of like that wake-up moment, like, okay, so we're bitching because one guy died, but 46,000 people are dying every day to denials of claim situations, so this is a big problem. And so that was the defense that they set up. And it was funny because I'll try to, I'm so long-winded, I apologize.
Can I
yeah,
just ask quick, are there examples of a case like that in a court system that have played out?
So that's what I wanted to get to. So almost every single self-defense state where you have the right to self-defense has a defense of others claim, which states, if somebody's trying to kill me and I shoot somebody or I accidentally eliminate somebody because they were trying to kill me, I cannot be held accountable for murder. It's called self-defense, and we're allowed to do that. A rider to that in almost every single state is you can do the same thing. If you watch somebody killing somebody right in front of you, somebody's beating somebody with a baseball bat and you realize that they're going to end that person's life, you can end that person's life with the baseball bat, and that's a defense of others. And that's allowed under almost every case. So what they pointed out in the Law and Order episode is what would be and I keep telling people, this could be a landmark case in the United States. This is going to set a precedent.
Seems like it.
Right? Because what they're saying, what they showed in the fictional trial was the attorney said, this is going to be a defense of others case. The prosecution in the fictional TV show said, that's bullshit. There was nobody eminently in danger when the shooter killed the CEO. Therefore, you can't use self-defense because or even defense of others because there was nobody eminently in danger. And their argument was, yes, we understand the law has never been used this way, but it makes sense because every single minute people are dying because of the denials of health care. So there's nothing in the law that says that the person has to be standing right in front of you for you to save their life. So therefore, we're going to try it as a self-defense case of others. And it ended with the judge saying, you know what? You're right. The law doesn't really address this, but I want to see how it plays out. Let's let a jury decide. And if that's what happens, it's going to be a landmark case in the United States.
It'll change more than just the health care industry too.
Right.
It'll change a shit ton of them. And that's another thing too, where I'm like, usually PSYOPs will benefit the control mechanism of government, healthcare, food,
right,
pharma, whatever. This one would not. So that's where I'm starting to think. I'm like, I feel like this could have been done by people that have been planned out, or that had it planned out to the point of what you were saying. They're smart enough, and if they're connected enough, and if they did do the whole e-bike switcheroo kind of thing, and
yeah. I want to answer.
I could see it.
I want to answer somebody just asked, what did the jury decide? And I think that they were talking about is in the fictional show. So and here's what's amazing about this, right? So in the fictional show, what did the jury decide? It was a stunning thing that they did, in my opinion. This is a spoiler alert if you want to watch it. So I'm going to spoil the ending. What they did at the end of they presented the argument that it was a defense of others case. And then the jury comes to make the announcement, and they say this: we, the jury, find the defendant, and then they cut to black, and it leaves you to decide how the jury was going to decide. It leaves you to decide.
Chills.
Right?
Chills, because
right?
That would set such a precedent.
Right.
And if you do think about it, it would save millions of lives over the course of.
Right.
What, like a lot? Yeah. It would be a huge case.
And here's my take on that, and I just want to, so I just want to end. Not necessarily end, because I'll talk as long as you want to, but I want to end on this thought at least, which is that, in my personal opinion, people ask me all the time, are they going to execute Luigi Mangione? Because again, and it's very nuanced, and I can explain it if you want. Maybe we'll do it on a different show sometime. But the state of New York doesn't believe in executions. The state of New York hasn't executed anybody since 2004, I think it is. But the federal government, now that Trump's back in office, because Biden basically said no more federal deaths either, and we're not going to do capital punishment in the country. Trump reinstated capital punishment, and and Pam Bondi has directed the federal government in New York to go after Luigi Mangione and give him the death penalty. Now, where I'm going with all of that is, yes, it's a huge shitstorm. It's what got me in trouble last time talking about it. But anyways, Pam Bondi directed the federal government in New York to seek the death penalty. But here's what I'm saying. For people who ask me, do I think they're going to execute him? No, and I'll tell you why. Because not only does a jury have to unanimously find Luigi Mangione guilty of the crime, but if they do, then they get reconvened and they have to have those same 12 people unanimously decide that the only appropriate answer to that is death. And I don't think in a sympathetic case of defense of others, you're going to get 12 jurors to say that the only thing that's appropriate in this case is killing Luigi Mangione. So I don't think I really don't think it's going to happen. Even if they do convict, which I'm not even sure they're going to convict. There's a whole thing about jury nullification. If you don't know what that is, that people are thinking that the jury might get nullified and they might not be able to get a conviction. But even if they do, the likelihood in New York that doesn't believe in capital punishment is going to not only convict unanimously, but then get together and say that death is the only appropriate response. I don't think that's going to happen, personally.
And there was just a really great point in the comments by Karen here. And it says, even if he did it, right, he's not a danger to the general public. And I would argue that, or not argue, I would be curious if there's an argument to be made also by the defense in saying that, like, this was a one person thing.
Well,
this was like, you know what I mean?
You have hit on something that you probably maybe haven't seen because you haven't been watching. So, right. In order to get the death penalty, the government had to have two aggravating circumstances. One of the aggravating circumstances is that he put other people's lives in danger. So, what the defense is saying is nobody else's life was in danger. The shooter didn't target anybody but Brian Thompson. He went after Brian Thompson. Not only that, but it was picked at a time of day when there was hardly anybody on the street. Not only that, but he didn't miss a single shot. Not only that, but basically what they're saying is no, other people's lives weren't in danger. This was just like you're saying, it was targeted against Brian Thompson. It wasn't an act against the populace, and nobody was in danger. The shooter hit their target, and nobody else was hurt. And so they tried to use the whole, hey, you did this on a main street of New York City as endangering the public's life, and use that as an aggravating circumstances to give him the death penalty. And the defense has said no, it wasn't aggravated because he targeted one guy and hit one guy and took steps to make sure only one. And again, they're saying that, not saying our guy is the shooter. They're just saying whoever the shooter was took steps to make sure that only Brian Thompson was hit. So no, it wasn't a danger to the public.
Man, to be a fly on the wall in that, like when the lawyers are talking to him,
right,
would be super interesting.
Oh God, dude.
I'm always curious whenever people who are super intelligent and like very well educated, which again, everything that you've said and what I've seen points to him being that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always curious, like, how much does like who the person is and what they're saying help shape a defense's plan? Versus you have someone that's either not going to cooperate with you and you still got to do your job and try to defend them, or they're dumber than a box of rocks.
There's a lot of craziness in this case. Like I said, I'm just scratching the surface. I feel like we can't do it all in one night. There's a lot of craziness in the case, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, like one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it, and thank you again for being willing to co-host and being willing to take that instead of just doing the guest. I appreciate that. And you didn't have to do that, but I didn't know anything about it. I knew that there was controversy around it. I knew that there was like the clear motive of the healthcare type corruption stuff and why. I just never knew that it went that many layers deep, and that there was so many Easter eggs in it too. What's like the craziest coincidence Easter eggs? I'm always curious about that. So you have what's written on the shell cases. You got the backpack full of Monopoly money. You have the 286 in the Twitter profile or the X profile, and there was like a Pokemon thing, right?
Yep.
That you were saying.
Yep.
The number of tweets. What else has there been?
From there, it gets a little sketchier because it has to do with, for example, the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, where by the way, McDonald's ran a Monopoly game for forever. So there was, right? Remember the McDonald's Monopoly game? So there was.
So what are the odds of that?
Right. I mean, right. And so there was indications, and I got it within 2 miles, not exactly. Supposedly, get this, the The McDonald's where he was arrested is 286 miles away from the hotel where Brian Thompson was
Shut
shot.
the
No, it's actually 2 miles different. I think it's 287 or 288 or something like that, but it's close to 286. And so I was like, what the hell? Like,
And if that's like the closest one they could have found, they're probably like, well, it's good enough, and somebody will stumble onto that. That shit is crazy.
right. So are those coincidences, or were they left as Easter eggs for the people who are smart enough to figure out that this is a game, that there's a bigger game at foot, right? So,
So 286 is the code for what again? It's the
So what it is, and it's funny because I have a friend who's in medical billing, so she explained it very clearly. So when somebody submits a request for services and it gets denied, you have a period to basically appeal the denial, and you get like 30 days to appeal the denial. So they said, no, we deny this. If you go past the 30 days, then they give it a code 286, which is you have passed the time allotted for an appeal. But what was happening was they were finding that the insurance industry would lie and say, hey, we never got the paperwork. Sorry about that. And by the way, the time's up. You're out of time. Denial of claim 286 because you ran out of time to appeal. And they'd be like, no, we did appeal. They're like, oh, well, we must have lost the paperwork. Too bad. Too sad. It didn't come in 30 days. And so the 286 is denial of claim because you ran out of time for your appeal. And therefore, it's automatically denied because you appealed and you ran out of time, 286.
So what does your gut tell you on this? What do you think we're going to see play out? When does the trial start?
So that's super interesting as well. Originally, the federal government said that they wanted the state to try Luigi first, and they were going to go second. Now his attorney is asking for the federal government trial to go first, and the date that has been set is in December of this year. They're going to set a trial date for sometime early next year. So it's not even going to go to trial until 2026.
Do you know what the strategy is to do the federal level before the state?
Yeah, I think so. So basically,
SG was saying that too.
Yeah,
like the state could be like the safety net where you fall back on it.
Right. So
I don't know if it's the same thing.
So there's a belief, and I've had an attorney on my show before backing up kind of what I'm saying as well. There was a belief that basically the federal government put themselves in second position in case the state effed it up. So they're basically, you go ahead and you get Luigi Mangione on murder, and if you don't do it, we're in second position and we'll try him and we'll make sure we get him on murder. And if that doesn't work, by the way, we're holding Pennsylvania for gun charges, so we'll at least get him on gun charges in Pennsylvania for having an illegal firearm on him and whatever. And so the idea was that's the reason why the federal government was in second position. Also, so there was where I'm going with that is there was a feeling that if the state convicts Luigi of murder, that the government may not proceed with their trial because they were like, okay, he's got life in prison, that's good enough. But if they fail, if the state fails, they're going to go for the capital punishment case in New York, in federal court. Now, the reason why Karen Agnifilo, his attorney, said that she wants now the federal government to go first is it has the highest penalty. It's like, let's just get the big one out of the way. If you're going to try to execute my client, let's do that first, because essentially, if that doesn't happen, then all the other ones are lesser. So let's just go for the biggest one first, essentially. Like let's try the death penalty case. So it's not clear whether they've agreed or not. So Karen has requested that the federal government go first, and we're waiting now to hear whether the state's going to now cede their right to go first and let the federal government try them first. So we're still waiting for that answer.
Okay, and so you were about to answer too. What do you think is going to play out? If you could look into a crystal ball and see the future, you think he's getting away? You think he's going to get?
So my guess is we're going to see what's called jury nullification. What that means is basically, and that'll be a huge thing if we see jury nullification. What jury nullification means is a jury says, yes, we believe you have enough evidence in this case that proves Luigi Mangione did the shooting, but the verdict is not guilty. So they're going to basically not hold him accountable for something that he did. That's what I think is going to happen. And it's something that's happened before in our country. For example, when people were protecting slaves that were running away from slavery, and it was against the law for them to protect and hide slaves. But what they do is they'd go to court and they'd say, yeah, we did protect and we did violate the law, but the law was unjust, so we're not going to say guilty. And so that's kind of what jury nullification is. It's basically, we agree that he committed the crime, but the punishment is not guilty and we're not going to sentence him. And here's the thing about our judicial system. A jury does not have to explain to a judge why they voted the way they did. They can say not guilty and they have no duty to explain to the court why they said not guilty.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. They have supreme authority. Yeah, they have supreme authority. So if they say not guilty, it's not guilty, and they do not have to explain themselves why it's not guilty. So that's what I kind of think is going to happen, is that a jury is going to find basically either a not guilty or a jury nullification, where they basically say, yeah, he's guilty, but we're not gonna say that there's a sentence that's applicable. That's my guess. Now, there's a strong possibility, in my opinion, that they're going to get him on something, and Luigi Mangione will spend the rest of his life in jail. I do not believe he's going to get the death penalty. So that's my prediction. Luigi Mangione probably is never getting out of jail because the federal government, it's too high a stakes. The government doesn't want this to become a hero who took out the health insurance industry. They're never going to let it happen. They'll play every trick that they got, even dirty pool if they have to make sure he goes away for the rest of his life at a minimum. But that's my guess. But there's a scenario in which he walks if the jury decides to do jury nullification. But they have to do that in like 2 different court systems.
I mean, if he willingly put himself in that position as far as like a bigger plan was going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta wonder if like what he's really banking on is the shit that's gonna come out during the trial. That's just gonna lead to stuff they can't contain, and the media is gonna run with it, and there'll be a complete narrative flip, and kind of like the tide will start to turn.
Yeah.
As far as people really, not that like what's so weird is everybody knows that it's broken. Everybody knows that that's the healthcare thing is whack.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't seem like there's a conclusive agreement on what do we do about it. We're stuck in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, I've always wondered like how can you change such a like they have a monopoly on our healthcare. How do you change something that big without?
Well, it's funny because I want to answer a question that came into your live, and then I want to answer one other thing, and then I want to answer your comment, and I don't know if I can do it all. So the question that I want to answer from the listeners or viewers is, can a judge overturn the verdict? No. That the jury's decision is final. The judge is required to uphold the jury's decision. So in other words, if you're saying, can the jury say not guilty and the judge say, well, that doesn't fly with me? No, the judge must uphold the jury's decision. So if they say not guilty, it's not guilty, period. Judge cannot overturn that. So that's the answer to that question.
Watch in the Brian Kohberger case, the judge will be able to do that for the first time
in history, right?
American court systems.
Oh my God, no. And there was something else I was going to comment about that you just said. Oh, about how to change the system. You know, just to go back again to How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which was a non-fiction book. It was made into a fiction movie. The non-fiction book's point of that book was, and it's protected as free speech in America because under free speech, you cannot call people to violence, you cannot ask people to commit violence, but you can theorize about whether or not violence does solve something. So there's a large part of the population that says violence never solved anything, which apparently they've never lived in America because we solve everything with violence. Our country has been founded on violence. We started this country by committing acts of treason against the British Army and assassinating soldiers and committing treason against that country. So we have solved everything by violence. But there are a group of people who say violence never solved anything. And what the premise of the book, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, is that legislation has never worked, protests never work, and yet, if you look at history, the only time we've had real change in America is when violence happens. And so that was kind of the premise of the book. It's not a call to action. It's not asking people to commit violence. It was basically a thought group, a think tank saying, maybe we need to look at history. When does things change in this country? Is it peaceful protests? Is it legislation? Or is it when something radical happens and something violent happens, and then all of a sudden people wake up and we change something? So that was kind of the premise of the book.
That's so interesting. We never solve anything abroad without it. That's for sure.
Right.
We try to change it in the homeland without it, and it seems to just always give the surveillance state an excuse to surveil us harder because it's peaceful, and now they need to, they need to watch everybody. They'll start raiding your houses over that type of shit.
And here's something I want to add because I take them so long. I'm ready to go when you are, but I want to bring up one more thing. One of the things that I've stated before was I don't know how Karen Agnifilo is going to, if she's going to, put the healthcare system on trial during this case, because I'll guarantee you, here's how it's going to play out in the court of law. As soon as anything gets talking about the healthcare system, the prosecution's going to do, hold on a second, I'm getting a check by, I have to prove that I'm a human being according to TikTok, so hold on.
Yeah,
Right.
seems to pop up for me whenever I start talking about stuff too, I'm
So-
convinced that it's not actually timing.
Right. So where was I going with that? What was my thought? Remind me what I was just freaking talking about. Damn it.
No, you were saying. What was the last word that you said?
I know, that's what
Chat, help us out.
Oh my gosh, what did I was on a thought and then I got killed by that thing.
The healthcare trial.
The healthcare trial. So what I'm saying is, at any point that Karen Agnifilo would try to introduce the, as she called it a murderous healthcare system. That was her own words. So that's tipping the hand that they're going to try to put the healthcare system on trial. And I said, no court of law is going to allow that, because what's going to happen is, as soon as she tries to do that, the prosecution is going to say, objection, Your Honor. The United States healthcare system's not on trial here. Luigi Mangione's on trial for killing Brian Thompson. So we're not going to turn this into a trial of the American healthcare system. And I would believe that any judge will say, sustained. This isn't about the healthcare system. It's about, did Luigi not kill this guy? Now, having said that, my last counter to this is, I grew up with O.J. Simpson's trial. In O.J. Simpson's trial, I said there's no way in hell this case is going to be about putting a racist police department on trial, because it's about O.J. Simpson. Did he or did he not kill Nicole Simpson? That's it. And yet, they successfully, his defense, put the LA Police Department on trial for being racist and having racist cops in that department. And that was largely how O.J. Simpson got the verdict that he did, because people were tired of a racist police department. And they did put the LA Police Department on trial in that case. So I see a precedence being set that while I say they're never going to allow the healthcare system to be put on trial, I didn't think they were going to put the LA Police Department on trial either. And that happened. So I don't know.
I wonder, like, it is interesting though. Like, it does seem like the only way that it would ever be put on trial is for what transpired to have had happened. Again, it's not justified. Like, I'm a good person, guys. I don't think that should happen to do it. But when you look at it through that lens of, like, how else would it have happened?
Yeah.
It wouldn't.
Right. Because I mean that's what I would, if I were the defense, and if I believed that my client did what they are claiming he did, I would say you have to explain to the jury why he did it. You would, and in order to explain to the jury why he did it, you have to explain to them how bad the healthcare system is. So if it gets to the point where Karen's basically conceding her client did it, I feel like she's going to have to put the healthcare system on trial. She's going to have to say, look, this was justifiable, if you will. That's what she's going to have to say. It was justifiable, and if you understood what's going through the mind of my client's head, then you would understand why in his mind that was justified, and you have to consider that, especially before you sentence to death. So even if they can't bring it up in the trial, there's different rules for what the jury can hear when it's the death sentence. So they may not allow her to bring the healthcare system into trial during the trial itself, but if they get to the point where they say he's guilty, and now they're deciding if it's a death penalty, she can now argue at that phase, okay, you need to understand why, though. You need to understand why. And that's something they could talk about during the sentencing phase.
Dude, yeah, I'm for sure going to be looking more into this now. I was waiting to kind of hear, like, your initial, like, dive into it. I think you did a great job explaining it, so thank you for taking the time to do that. And, I mean, you clearly have gone deep on this, brother. And it's awesome. Yeah. I love it. I mean, and you articulate things not just for this case but also the Idaho case extremely well, and I'm excited to also for the chat every Monday night now for the foreseeable future unless something comes up. Devil's Advocate and I are going to co-host, so he's going to pop onto my lives at 8 p.m. Central. I'll still start at my normal time at 7:30 Central, but as I've been doing the last couple of weeks, I've had like a guest on each time, and I can share my screen and or we can co-host or whatever it is. And it just, I feel like it's more of like a controlled talk path instead of having like 4 people up at one time. It gets a little chaotic and it's not the best viewing or listening experience. So that's why I've been doing that. Phoenix has been on. She was on earlier. She's been great. Devil's Advocate's going to be on Monday nights. Obviously, I go on with Mrs. Birdie on Wednesday nights for her hot takes on some of the stuff that she's been looking into. But I guess more so, Devil's Advocate, do you got any kind of closing thoughts just in general, whether it be the Kohberger case, this case, like...
My only closing thought is that you and I have so many things in common that even if we weren't talking about Luigi and Kohberger exclusively, we've got a million other conspiracy theory, history of America, all the different things that have happened in this country to talk about. So I feel like our future for doing lives together on Monday, I'm in as long as you're in, because I feel like we could talk forever. And then my last thought would be, if you're new to this, if any of your listeners are new to what I call the game theory and the Luigi shuffle and all these things like this about whether or not people, scrambled around inside Central Park, go to this channel up here on YouTube that's shown in my video, Devil's Advocates 2024, and I have a video called The Devil's Briefcase, and it's called The Game Theory. It's all about Luigi Mangione, and it talks about everything I talked about tonight about the 286 and all those things, Monopoly leads, and a few more pieces you didn't hear tonight. So I would recommend, if you want to get boned up on there and you were curious tonight about that, go watch my video called The Game Theory. Other than that, I think that's it, man.
I want to test you real quick here. Let's see how like-minded we are. I'm gonna throw out two like pretty far out there conspiracies in chat. You guys let me know if you've heard this.
I'm terrified.
No, these are interesting ones. They're more like just, I'm curious, like what kind of rabbit holes are we going down the same ones?
Yeah.
And like I was saying, I've gone deep down some rabbit holes, and one of them that I've gone down is that the moon actually reflects the land that's on this earth, and you can line a globe up to the dark spots on the moon that are the exact layout of just parts of the land, and then it shows more land that's not ever on a map. And then I started thinking about, well, what does extraterrestrial mean? Well, extra means more, and terrestrial means land. So have aliens really just been people or beings from the extra land that shows up on the reflection of the moon that we don't know about here on Earth because we're lied to about everything?
Oh,
have you heard of that?
Oh, yes, I have heard that, I will tell you, that's such a deep topic. I can't get into it all, but I will try to hit some highlights. I believe there's a possibility the moon is artificially placed there, that it's an artificial thing, that it was put into place to cause our gravitational field so that we could have tides and oceans, stuff like that. It's not a random chance that moon just happens to be where it needs to be. That's an artificial, that's a possibility to me, that's an artificially planted thing to create and sustain life on the planet. There's theories I have about the whole history of our planet and aliens and the visiting Anunnaki from ancient Sumeria, and about the origins of the Bible, where it really came from and who visits. So yeah, dude, I could go further down that rabbit hole than you could possibly imagine. So there's nothing that's too crazy for me to consider.
See, I knew from our first conversation on the phone that it was going to be like this. So like, one of the things too that I think we should try to do is when we do co-host, moving on, I think we should pick a topic, and I think one of the things that'll help is like we'll have a title up here, and whether we're co-hosting or whatnot, we can do the green screen. That was smart of you to do that. I'll do the green screen too, so if we got videos, and I can just kind of like
because you can put something up above, and yeah.
So I think that'll help. It'll help with all that. But yeah, man, I'm always curious, like what's your go-to theory? I've made this joke with my wife, and I'm like, what was like the theory that I kind of like tested? Are you going to think I'm absolutely nuts eventually when you really know how my brain works with all this shit? And we were living in Milwaukee at the time. And I don't know if I told you this, but I started asking her questions like, hey, have you ever noticed how like all of these old buildings have like the most random entrances, and the windows are always dug down, almost like there's a bunch of mud that just randomly showed up in this city? And I'm going with like the mud flood theory of like this cataclysmic event that happened and was one of the resets, and then you look into Tartaria and you look into all this other stuff and the free energy and all this. Like I said, I've gone deep down it, but I would love, because I believe you that you've gone deeper than I can imagine on some of that stuff, and I like how you can articulate it. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that type of stuff, but
yeah, I'm a little bit.
That shit's interesting to me.
I'm a little bit fearful of losing our audience, who are into true crime, because when you start talking about some of the craziest stuff, then you start to get people who are a little bit afraid. But I'm willing to go there if you are, because again, Mondays is our thing, right? So if we have a show that goes off the rails from time to time, I'm okay with that. I'll end with my biggest crazy conspiracy theory ever. Are you ready? My biggest one ever. I don't believe we're really here. I believe that our entire reality is actually essentially a dream. We're not real. You and I are the same exact thing. We have fooled ourselves into thinking that you and I are separate. We're the same being. We're the same consciousness. And we have given ourselves selective amnesias so that we can have conversations with ourselves and learn from ourselves, because that's how we understand and grow as the God consciousness, if you will. And so I don't even think this is a real place. Physical reality is not real. It's just a really good illusion. Now, how's that for craziness?
God damn it! I'm trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, that's how crazy I can get. So,
damn, yeah, that's. I mean, hey, truth is stranger than fiction. I for sure. I think that there is something to be said. I've said this too. I'm like, on the nights that you can't sleep, or the mornings that you sleep in. I've said, I wonder if the universe needs a certain amount of consciousness that's awake,
right,
and a certain amount of consciousness that's asleep at all times. Hence why half the world sleeps when half the world's awake. And I wonder if there's literally something that's like a deeper root that's like, it's that there's not enough openings for you to fall asleep right now. We need your consciousness, to be aware. Like, that's what I tell myself.
We could have a million talks about consciousness and time and ebbs and flows and all that. I mean, it could get crazy, but yeah, at some point we have to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey man, as always, I enjoyed it. Guys, just so you guys know, I did get a new YouTube channel. It's BirdieBombshells. I'm starting on May 1 to start uploading all the lives. I wanted to make sure that people found out about it, because for like YouTube to actually even show your profile, you have to have a certain amount of days like posting videos or a certain amount of views on it. Or at least that's what was happening to me. It didn't show up for like 5 days. So BirdieBombshells on YouTube, Devil's Advocate on YouTube, and then yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I always enjoy it. And Monday nights now, 8 p.m. Central, I'll be having Devil's Advocate on my show, or we'll be co-hosting just like this. So I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope everybody has a great night. And I hope that there's not too many consciousness people that are needed to be awake right now, and you can all fall asleep nicely.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to do it again.
All right. Yep. See you guys.
Night.